and get ready to have the most fun you ever had with an electronic device.
And just talk about just played the game, never heard anything out of him. Yeah. I'm not sure I've ever heard him talk, but
I'm sure he has.
Yeah, so the first mute wide receiver on the list.
There you go.
But, yeah.
All right, everybody, welcome out to the Log Room. It is Wednesday, January 13th, 2021. Jersey Johnny coming at you, and with me, as always, is Mr. RadioPete and Mr. Harry Lug Nutz. Say hello, guys.
Hello, guys and gals. And
hello, everyone.
Anyone in between.
Hello, guys.
Everybody. Hello, guys.
We're at it again.
We are at it, back at it once again. How was your weekend, you guys, and the beginning of your week, for that matter?
Fantastic.
Fan-friggin-tastic.
Can't remember what I did.
Weekends, week beginnings. Weekends were made for Michelob. I don't know. It was fine.
Is 3 games a day each of the weekend days just too much?
No,
I don't think so.
They were all. They weren't all. Most of them were very good games.
Most, yeah.
What if it was every week, though?
Every week.
Like, I had to get up at, I normally get up very early for work, maybe around 4:30 or so. I had to get up at, 5:15 to get everything done before the football started because I knew I was going to be engaged for a good 9 to 12 hours.
True.
Think about if they start 2 hours before that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 1 to 11 for us. It's 11 to 9 for Harry over there.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't watch all of it. It's just too much. But
what?
I can't sit there for
every single minute.
12 hours
glued to the TV.
I was glued. I was
glued to the TV.
While I was flipping back and forth, I had the games working on the
the
Super Nintendo system.
Gotcha.
So we'd get to halftime of the game, and then I'd flip to the Super Nintendo system and see how that played out. And
gotcha.
Surprisingly, it didn't turn out at all like the real life.
No, totally different, right?
Yeah.
So, a lot of things that we probably thought were going to turn out slightly different. I mean, we'll get to them when we get to the games from over the weekend. But for the 6 road teams won. So.
Who would have known?
Kind of crazy.
And, we ended up tied once again, Harry.
Once again.
One of my upset calls was right, and then the other was wrong, so we're right back where we started.
Back and forth.
Yes. It's like the race for the NFC East title. It's hard to watch, and no one really cares.
Yeah. Some of the teams don't either.
Although our record's much better. I mean, our percentages would be we'd be way out in front. Yeah.
Well, it's hard to watch. Nobody cares, and ultimately, whoever wins just gets a beatdown.
Exactly.
Right.
So it doesn't matter.
It's
all futile.
Although that game wasn't a blowout,
It wasn't.
No.
It wasn't. Before we get to the games, Doug Peterson got fired yesterday, or Monday actually. So
another reason why he might have done what he done is because he wants the Jets job.
And did he do it Did he do it on purpose?
Well,
he wants the Jets job after. I just don't understand Philadelphia at all. It's like he won a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
and not a long time ago either.
No, and I'm gonna leave there to go coach the Jets.
Right. And what I'm going to do is, in the process, the things I'm going to do that's going to solidify my firing, I'm going to aggravate a bunch of fans that visit a team that play in the same stadium as the team I want to go to. So.
Yeah, but he didn't.
Well, I assumed that because he did what he did and he took the heat for it and just so obviously lied. What we all thought and said, oh, yeah, we were trying to win. I was coaching to win the game. I thought he must have had some sort of assurance or at least felt fairly secure in his job.
Right.
Because why would you do that but maybe he didn't. Maybe he says, hey, I got a chance to reunite with Hugh Douglas. They don't have at least right now, as big a quarterback controversy as they do necessarily in Philadelphia.
Right.
Not yet, unless
But I mean,
draft a quarterback.
Right? No, not yet. But it's a lot to gamble. But that could be reason number 3. Maybe it was for the draft picks. Maybe it's because he didn't want Jalen Hurts to win the game, and maybe he thought he could get the Jets.
You're a Jets fan, and John lives with one. What are your thoughts of Doug Peterson being the coach of the Jets?
I don't think so. I don't think. You know what? He hasn't even confirmed, as far as I know,
that he's fired. He hasn't confirmed that he's fired. He's not leaving. He's refusing to leave. He's going to challenge the results.
He's going to sit in his office until they drag him out.
Right. No, he's not even. Unless something popped today that I didn't say. He's not even confirming that he actually wants to coach next year. Like he might, do like a Mike McCarthy, take a year off kind of thing. I meditate for a while and let everything marinate and
decide that sit around and then
wait for a better opportunity.
Wait for a better one
that he wants to come back. I heard some guys saying, "Listen, Peterson's gone to the playoffs, whatever, 2 out of the 3 years or whatever. He won a Super Bowl and this and that, and he's a pretty good coach and blah blah blah." Well, there's one problem that I can see. Mm-hmm. He still did what he did.
Yeah,
there's an integrity issue there. And for whatever the reason is, and maybe we'll never know for sure, he did it. That was a line that he was willing to cross to sell out his players, whether it was for a draft pick, whether it was to protect Carson Wentz, whether it came down, as I think we all probably think it came down from up above, but whether it did or not, whether it was because he wanted to get fired and wanted the Jets job, doesn't matter. He was willing to cross that line.
Right.
And I don't want that guy as the coach of my team.
Unless it was something that happened, like, it was just everything being a coincidence. It was something that came down from the powers to be above him. He took the rap for it and figured that they could skate by. But with all the players,
but if you were going to do that, you had to have some kind of assurance that you weren't going to get fired, which means that either that never happened or Philly, the ownership said, "Yeah, don't worry about it. You're our guy," and then stabbed him in the back.
And if you were going to do it, you would have started what's his name in the beginning of the game and not changed quarterbacks in the fourth. It was just a weird thing. Who the hell knows? Right. Honestly, I don't care.
Doesn't really matter when it comes down to it. And if we're speaking about the Jets and that job, I mean, you can say that's the direct line. Maybe it all happened. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe it was intentional on a lot of fronts. But the direct line there is obviously Joe Douglas, right?
Yeah.
But the Jets seem to be zeroing in, at least over the last several days, on 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh.
Yeah.
And they brought him in for a second interview, and he's obviously a highly touted guy. He's been interviewed in a bunch of places. He interviewed with Detroit, Jacksonville, Atlanta, the Chargers, and the Jets. And Philly requested an interview with him yesterday. So
now, has he had the second interview?
I believe the second interview was today. Don't quote me on that. I believe it was today.
Yeah.
Philly didn't get an interview yesterday. They requested an interview.
If he's actually the guy, then they should be in talks of signing him now. If you're bringing a guy in for the second interview,
right?
If he's, you would think that they're actually interested in him, and unless he comes in and says something that turns them off,
right?
You should be now trying to sign him.
Unless the interview is tomorrow. The chatter that I heard was that if they really feel during the interview of Joe Douglas and the Johnsons and all feel that he is indeed the guy, they weren't going to let him leave the office without signing.
No, why would you? If you think he's the guy, why would you? You got 6 other teams that want to talk to him.
Exactly.
So, I don't know. But they're the Jets.
Right.
So, this is one of those things that they have to do right. And one of the things that us Jets fans don't have much confidence in them doing right.
Yeah. This is true.
Well, they haven't screwed it up yet. So,
this is true. I mean, but at the end of the day, they are still the Jets. Right. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how that plays out. Let me ask you this, switch gears really quick on the Jets. Who are they taking? And I know we have 3 months to talk about this, but the reason I'm only asking this because there's been so much talk otherwise. The offensive tackle from Oregon, Sewell. I mean, he's touted as the best offensive tackle in years, and he really should. There shouldn't be any reason why they don't take him.
Hasn't played in over a year, but yeah.
Right. But whatchamacallit? Now everybody's saying after Monday's game, and we'll talk about the national championship later on in the podcast. But now everybody's saying maybe the Jets should just bite the bullet and take Devonta Smith at 2. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, gosh, is everybody loving Fields just as much as they were?
No, of course not.
After the
Alabama's quarterback looked pretty darn good.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
well, listen, the hype is now about that. Oh, is this the greatest? Is he the greatest coach in college football history, or perhaps in football history? Saban, and is this the greatest college football team we've ever seen? And Justin Fields is like, well, somebody's going to take me, right? And somebody will.
Somebody's going to take. Yeah, he'll go in the first round.
But like I said earlier, go look at Justin Fields has been certainly by far more good than bad, of course.
Sure.
That's an understatement. He's been more great than bad.
Right.
But he has laid an egg in a couple of games recently. He's sort of been up and down. So I'm hearing about
what egg did he lay? I mean, he still had a pretty good game. He just played against a team that was way better than
and it wasn't really all. It wasn't. Ohio State didn't lose that game because of Justin Fields. Ohio State lost that game because Alabama was the better team.
And he was also hurt. And I'll tell you what, he outplayed. I know they don't play directly against each other, but he outplayed the guy who's been the consensus number 1 pick and who will be the number 1 pick since last year. I mean, last year when Burrow was going to go with the top pick, people were saying Trevor Lawrence will be a better quarterback and is a better quarterback. I think Justin Fields is. I think he's not a sure shot, but I think he'll be.
All right. Well,
he'll be top. I think he might go to
17 for 33 for 194 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
67 yards on the ground and 6 attempts. Those aren't great numbers.
How good was Daniel Jones in this college football championship game? Oh wait, he never made it.
He didn't. Right.
No, he didn't. Look, I'm just saying he didn't light it up the way he did against Clemson.
No, I didn't expect him to.
He played a game that was closer than the game that he played.
I didn't expect him to.
Right. If anybody expected him to repeat that performance he did the week before, it wasn't going to happen. They were not thinking straight. It wasn't.
I'm not saying he's no good. I'm just saying I've never been convinced that he is.
I think he goes in the top 5. I think he might go to the Falcons.
He might.
Yeah. Well,
listen. The other thing I'm hearing is sorry. Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say the other name floating around there towards the top of the draft board would be Zach Wilson too from Brigham Young.
And I think people still have Jamar Chase ahead of Devonta Smith at the wide receiver. So right now, he's probably. I think that the Eagles are going to have their choice of either Chase or Smith.
And there's who's the other guy? Waddle. That was hurt, but he was ranked higher than all of them to begin with. And listen, the other thing I'm hearing now is what's going on with the Houston Texans and Deshaun Watson.
That's
people are saying maybe the Jets are going to trade that pick for Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson, allegedly wants out of Houston. He's not happy.
Everybody wants out of Houston.
Yeah, and
well, can you blame him?
Exactly. And Houston's obviously going to go into a rebuild because I got a feeling just between us, and obviously it's been talked about, mentioned, not leaked, but whispered or whatever. But I don't think J.J. Watt's staying in Houston after this year. He's got one more year on his contract. I got a feeling you're going to see all 3 Watt brothers in Pittsburgh. But
I'm not sure J.J. Watt's got much left in the tank.
No, he's got another year or 2, maybe 3. I mean, he's 31. 30, 31, 32.
Yeah, but I mean,
he's not done, but he's not far from it.
No, but his best years are
behind him, sure, of course.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But to me, that's a more intriguing option than Justin Fields.
Yeah. Well, to you want
to say, hey,
guide some of these players
and Deshaun Watson for the number 2 pick. I say, well, that's something to consider.
Well, what a couple of things I saw was they're going to be obviously they're going to want to trade with a team that can give up a quarterback and high draft picks. So obviously the Jets fit that bill. They can take Sam Darnold.
Right.
They can take one of the Jets' 2 first-round picks this year. They can take another first-round pick or at least a second-round pick next year or the year after, and then they can give up a later pick, a 4th or 5th round this year and next year too. And I think that would probably do it. Houston gets back a bunch of draft capital and a starting quarterback,
which is perfect because they're looking to rebuild. Assumedly,
right.
I mean, you would think.
Do you build a team around Deshaun Watson though?
Well, I mean, he's not old. He's got he's only a couple years older than Sam Darnold, if that.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not sold on.
Is he a better quarterback than Sam Darnold? Who's the better quarterback between the two?
I think Deshaun Watson is.
Yeah, but you got to build. I mean, it's night and day in a lot of ways,
right?
And I don't know. Yeah, I think the Giants are going to have some good opportunities with their pick. I'm hoping Kwity Paye, who's the Michigan defensive lineman, maybe drops down, although the Broncos will probably take him, or the Cowboys. Do the Giants take a tight end, or do they?
Giants are not taking a tight end.
Or do they go for Micah Parsons, or the Giants could get Waddle. I think if Jalen Waddle's available, he's kind of small, but I think you take him. I'll tell you what, this kid Parsons, though, from Penn State is another great linebacker.
Yeah, I think they have to go. I think they have to go linebacker. They have to go defensive, unless Waddle or for some odd reason Smith fall to 11.
Well, Waddle's projected to be 12th or 13th.
Right. So if you have the opportunity to get Waddle and give that another weapon to
how about Pitts? How about Kyle Pitts from Florida? I mean, the people are talking about him being the best tight end in the draft in a number of years.
Yeah, there's been talk about that, but I don't see them moving away from. And believe me, I'll be the first one to say move away from Ingram. But
I think you could play. Pitts is more of a tight end than Ingram is in the classic sense of the term. I think you can play both of them at the same time, and I think it would help Daniel Jones, especially with his ability to somebody's on top of me, dump it off in the 6 to 7 yard realm.
I honestly think that they should be, if that's the case, if they get him and they put him plug him in the tight end spot, and you want to run Ingram out there, line him up in the slot, line him up as a receiver.
Yeah, I don't think you have to get rid of Ingram.
Tight end, he's a wide receiver. He's a slot receiver.
Look, the Giants' MO is they don't pay people once their rookie contracts are up. So I don't. They're not going to pay Ingram. They never do that with their receivers. They get another one.
Right.
And so I think the Giants will probably go with a receiver. I think they'll go with if Waddle's available or Pitts. I think they'll probably take Pitts. I think the wild card with the Giants is if they take Micah Parsons, which I think those are all good picks.
Yeah.
I'll just say this: Deshaun Watson threw for 4,800 yards this past season, 33 touchdowns and 7 picks.
Yeah.
He's and look, they were terrible.
Right.
They have nothing. They
had nothing, and he still did all that.
They were 10-5 last year and 11-5 the year before that, and they haven't performed in the playoffs, but.
I think what I like about Watson
is 25 years old too.
Right. What I like about Watson is that he wanted an offensive-minded coach, and when they didn't, when they decided to not even interview Bieniemy, then I think that was the final straw.
Yeah.
I think he realizes that. I think he's one of the things I like about Deshaun Watson is I think he's able to handle a complicated offense and perform in it because he's one of, if not the most versatile of quarterbacks out there. He just hasn't really had the consistency around him, I think, to do what it is that he's capable of doing.
Right.
The question is will he be paired up with that coach that he wants? And look, right. Bieniemy's has not been a head coach and hasn't moved up as quickly as previously because of some of things in his past.
Sure.
He's not squeaky clean, and there's a lot of people with question marks behind him. I think,
and there's also the racism issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which, to me, I don't know how you measure that, but I think we all know that it's there.
Yeah.
And the league knows it's there, and that's why they instituted the Rooney Rule, which was a lousy attempt to fix something. But, but you're right. He does have a few things in his past that may
I still think he's going to go. I still think he's going to go to San Diego. I still think that's the perfect fit for him.
Well, let me ask you, Pete, as a fan and as somebody that's watched the Jets for as long as you've watched the Jets, do you feel that they should go with a head coach that's an offensive-minded head coach or a defensive-minded head coach?
I think you want,
and I know either will work if you get the right system together and you get the right coaching staff together. But in your estimation,
it's an offensive league. It's an offensive league,
right?
so let's have an offensive coach.
Gotcha.
And that's also, something the Jets have never really done. I mean, you could say they did it with Adam Gase, but obviously that didn't work out.
It didn't.
And they've had plenty of offensive guys. Look, I'm not a fan of first-time coaches, given the Jets' history.
Sure.
They've had, to say mixed success is to be kind, with bringing in guys who were coordinators first. But
sure,
I also don't want somebody who's a four-time retread.
Yeah, well,
I don't think there's a lot of them left. I don't really think there's a lot.
It doesn't seem like there are. It doesn't seem like there are. So again, it's a difficult decision, and it should be left to the football mind. And that's Joe Douglas.
I think Ben McAdoo's available. He's an offensive-minded coach, and he has head coaching experience.
Bring him in. He could be the Gatorade table coach.
Had offensive results.
That's
very offensive.
He is an extremely offensive guy.
Absolutely.
In more ways than one.
There you go.
I don't know. It's going to be ugly because it's the Jets. But.
It's going to. You know what? Maybe they are going to sign Robert Soloff.
I
think defensive, but
I take Deshaun Watson over anybody coming out of college.
I get you.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Except for maybe even Trevor Lawrence.
But I think John's question
right now, I would take.
Well, your question points to the problem: is that a head coach shouldn't be offensive or defensive on it. A head coach should be a head coach, and it's the head coach. But that's the problem, I think, is that we have too many people who are unable to be head coaches. They just don't transition from that coordinator position to head coaches.
Yeah.
And the other trend that I don't understand, which maybe makes sense to some degree because they show overall leadership as opposed to the ability to handle the offensive or defensive coordinator tasks, is that we're seeing a lot of people that aren't coordinators who get head coaching jobs.
Right.
And I think there's mixed results. I just don't think there's a lot of great coaches, new young coaches coming up to the NFL. The best coaches in the league are still just the older coaches.
Yeah, I don't want my coach necessarily running the offense. That's what your coordinator is for.
Right.
But an offensive coach as opposed to a defensive coach, for me, means that if the coordinator really isn't getting it, he can help out with that.
Right.
Right.
In other words, he's more able to kind of fix or add to the mix on the offense than he is on defense. And
sure,
that's I don't want my head coach running either side of the ball. That's what you have coordinators for. But I do want a head coach who leans towards an offense, more offensive minded, and can, when it isn't clicking, he can go to the offensive coordinator and they can figure out how to make it work better. Well, I'd rather have that than the guy who does the same thing on defense.
Right. Well, there's a few of them out there, so we'll see how everything pans out with them. As far as Deshaun Watson goes, they've been floating teams around like obviously the Jets would be a great landing spot for him because of what Houston can get back. Right.
Right.
But there are a number of other teams that he would fit the bill immensely perfectly in, and the Bears is one of them. Who knows what's going to happen with Trubisky? Saints, is Breeze done after this year?
Yeah, but the Saints seem to be high on what's his name,
Taysom Hill.
Yeah, and so I don't know. We'll see.
They also have Jameis Winston as a backup.
Oh, well, that's what I meant, Winston. I think Winston starts there next year.
Gotcha.
Grab legs.
There you go.
I wonder if that's his official nickname. I'll be right back, guys. Carry on.
You got it. You also have the Steelers. Who knows what Big Ben's going to do? I mean, he was. Well, we'll talk about his tiers the other, when we get to the games from Saturday. But then there's the one team that is a clear, obvious place that he would thrive in and would love to have a guy like him. And if any team in recent history has proven that they can make something happen, this team has, and that would be the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they don't really have, I don't think, enough to offer, especially with the draft pick wise and otherwise. And boy, there's something. Belichick has just been really unwilling to go out and sign free agents in the last number of years. I don't know what it is. He just hasn't. Right. I mean, you can't say Cam Newton was a big free, but didn't they get him for the league minimum?
Yeah. He was like no money.
I mean, what other signings? I mean, the last time that the New England went out and signed somebody big was, I don't even remember. I mean, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
They don't do it.
No, they really don't. You're right. Absolutely right. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see how that all shakes out.
I mean, I think Deshaun Watson's an incredible upgrade from Cam Newton, obviously. And yeah, but he wouldn't necessarily. The problem with New England is they don't have a lot of pieces around them. Right. And it would be a rebuilding deal. If he wants to go in and play with people right now and have a team that's ready to go,
right? The
Steelers are definitely, I think, the logical pick, with the exception of maybe I don't know. I think the Steelers would obviously be the best choice, right, if they're willing to, or the Saints. If the Saints basically say, I'm not so sure Breeze isn't going to play another year.
I'm not so sure of that either. And also Jameis Winston, the contract that he was on, that they have him for, is up this year. They would have to re-sign him in order to keep him as well. So, but I digress. The Giants, a couple things on the Giants. Pete is back with us. I believe he is anyway. Are you?
I'm here. Yeah, I'll just say this. I think Drew Brees is going to try and keep playing until he wins another Super Bowl.
I don't see
unless he falls apart, until he absolutely can't do it anymore.
Actual limbs fall off of his body.
I think he's playing again next year. I don't see any reason why he shouldn't.
If he wins this year, he might hang it up. But
yeah, well, I think he's not going to win this year. But if he does, I think you go out on top. You go out on top.
Absolutely.
The L way.
The L way. You go out the L way.
You do the L way.
Couple things on the Giants. Joe Judge, we can discuss this, but on Daniel Jones, he did make a statement. Yesterday was on the Fan, WFAN in New York, and he stated that in referring to Daniel Jones, speaking of Jones, he prepares better than anyone daily. There's a lot of confidence going forward because he's prepared, he competes, and he improves every day. So, and those are I'm paraphrasing that a little bit, but that's basically what Joe Judge was saying about Daniel Jones. You feel that that's just him being,
I feel like it's him putting a bumper sticker on the back of his minivan that says, "My Daniel Jones is better than your honor student."
Gotcha.
My other car is a Daniel Jones.
The Giants are the Giants are committed to Daniel Jones. We know that.
Right.
They have to get a team that Daniel Jones is going to be able to thrive in, and that means they're going to have to be incredibly dominant on the defensive side, and Saquon's going to have to come back, and they're going to have to be able to control the ball. Mm-hmm. The Giants do have some weapons for Daniel Jones. The problem has been inconsistency on the offensive line. We could say that for the last 7 years for the Giants.
Sure, absolutely.
I think if you get a great dominant offensive line in front of Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, then yes, they're both going to look better. We haven't seen the best of Saquon Barkley yet, and I'm hoping we do. But my concern with Saquon is that will he ever get to the point where he's not subjected to injuries the way he is? Are we really going to get a full season of Saquon Barkley where he can contribute and the Giants can open holes for him the way that they need to? I don't know.
I think he has to stop jumping over people. Power around them, run around, outrun them, power through the line. How
many years of college did he play?
4.
I think he played all 4.
Played all 4.
3 or 4.
Well, sometimes you get guys that come out and
they're too young.
They mature a little bit afterwards. They tend to get hurt early.
Well, he's very talented. We just don't know.
Right.
We just don't know. I think there's as many question marks with Saquon Barkley as there is with Daniel Jones, only because it's a different kind of question marks. But his durability is in question. You can't say it isn't. No, and we've seen this over and over again with a lot of running backs, especially, is that sometimes you just can't get over the injury bug. You just can't get away from it.
But at least with him, you know what you are going to get when he's healthy.
Look at
those two problems. Is he going to be able to stay healthy, or is he really good? He's really, really good.
Yeah, like I said, this is why
I think more frustrating.
If if your team, people say, well, who are the Giants building around? Well, you have to, at least for the next 2-3 years, say that the Giants should be built around Saquon Barkley. So that means, how do you make Saquon Barkley better? You block for him.
Right.
So maybe the Giants take an offensive lineman. Maybe they trade to get 2 or 3 late first round picks or a second round pick. They have to do something about their offensive line.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I just look at the draft last year. They took Andrew Thomas and
he did okay, but not was he that much better than what's his name, who they signed a free agency? I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't either. And I believe, and I have to actually check because I've been thinking about this all day. I'm pretty sure that Tristan Wirfs was still on the board when they took Thomas, and Tristan Wirfs has been pretty damn good in Tampa Bay this year. So is that coaching down there versus coaching up here? Is it the player? I think it's more the player at that point. But who knows what Thomas is gonna? I mean, I'm not saying that Thomas is going to become Eric Flowers by any means, but hopefully he has a better sophomore campaign and so forth and so on. But we'll see what happens.
Here's what I would like to see the Giants do. I would like to see the Giants go out, and I don't have any idea who's available as free agency as far as proven offensive linemen. But I don't think we have time to take offensive linemen who have played 1 or 2 years of college football, bring them in, put them in with a bunch of other offensive linemen that are still trying to find their legs and prove themselves, and get a cohesive offensive line. I think we need a couple guys who've played 2 or 3 years, who are coming into their prime and have proven that they don't have to be Pro Bowlers, but they've proven that they're good and that their upside is still for the next 3 or 4 years. I'd like to see them go out and do that. I don't think we need to sign another Nate Solder, but I think that's the right move. I think if you can get some free agents on the offensive line, that's what's going to make the Giants better. And then you throw that in with a tight end that helps A, blocking, and B, as a dump off for Daniel Jones, then the Giants offense can start to be what I think it needs to be. I don't see the Giants being a vertical, lighted up, down the field kind of offense. I think for the Giants to win, they have to play Giants football. They got to run the ball, control the clock, occasionally have a long strike, and put Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley in a position to be successful. And it begins and ends with the offensive line.
You're right. We will see what happens. Hold on, I need a little bit of water there.
There we go.
Excuse me.
So we still managed to spend half an hour talking about the Jets and the Giants, and they
it was other things over here.
It's a minute per touchdown scored combined.
Exactly. Well,
who had more touchdowns, the Giants and the Jets combined, or Deshaun Watson?
It's a good podcaster's metric.
Exactly. Yeah. I do want to bring up one more thing, and that would be Mr. Aikman's comments over the weekend, specifically during the Rams Seahawks game. Did either of you hear what he said?
No. What did he say?
Referring to Aaron Donald, he said that Aaron.
Oh, yeah.
Let me get the exact quote. Hold on one second. I got it right here. The exact quote is, "I played against Reggie White. I played against Lawrence Taylor. And I got to tell you, this Aaron Donald is the best defensive player I have ever seen. He is really remarkable. He should be NFL Defensive Player of the Year, and I think he should be getting some votes for the MVP of the entire league. He's that good." That was Troy Aikman's quote during the game.
He's good.
So he's already touted Aaron Donald better than LT and Reggie White.
Well, at what point in his career did Aikman play against LT? And number two, he's an announcer, so of course he's gonna say something hyperbolic to get people's attention.
Right now, everybody who's playing is the best or amongst the best who ever played at any position. That's the hyperbole that goes along with the job.
I mean, Donald is the most dominant defensive player I've seen in a long time.
I mean, he's ridiculously good, absolutely, and I agree with that. He's probably the best. Not probably. He is the best defensive player in the league right now. And I don't have any gripes about saying that, but I really don't think he's better than LT, a man that revolutionized the position of linebacker in football history. Aaron Donald is not. That's.
Yeah,
that's not even comparing LeBron James to Michael Jordan. It's not.
It's too early.
It shouldn't be taken. Yeah, it's right. It's too early. It shouldn't be taken that seriously.
Right.
I mean, you could say the Rams have been more built on their defense this year than their offense, and so maybe you want to talk about him being considered for the MVP. I think kind of all those other statements he said have some ring of truth to them, but better than LT and Reggie. Better than Reggie White, of course, because he's Reggie White, the sack record thief, liar, cheat. But
yeah, I don't even think it's. I mean, there's too many ex-Cowboy quarterbacks talking on television. I try not to listen to them. Although I will secretly admit that I think Tony Romo's a pretty good broadcaster.
I don't have any problem with.
He's really smart. He knows what's going to happen before it happens.
It's crazy that
it's amazing happens. That he can only do that on the field.
Yeah, you just call him radar.
He was actually. I mean, he's another guy who I think was the original. I mean, you talk about people being criticized for their postseason play, much like Lamar Jackson. I mean, that was Romo's thing. I mean, if you look at Romo's numbers, he was a darn good quarterback.
He was.
Right.
I actually saw a graphic the other day during I believe he was doing the Saints game, right? So it was during the Saints game. They put up a graphic on the screen, and it said between Tony Romo and Sean Payton, because Sean Payton was a quarterback in college too. They both went to Eastern Illinois, and on Eastern Illinois, they exchanged the top three, I guess, pass percentage record, total yards, and total passing TDs. One of them's either 2 or 3 in Eastern Illinois history as a quarterback, and so one's 2 in second place for 2 of them, and third place for the other one, and vice versa for the other one. But the quarterback from Eastern Illinois that's in number 1 for all 3 categories was Jimmy Garoppolo. So just a little interesting side note there.
Yeah, and that it was the Eastern Illinois moment, brought to you by Eastern Illinois, where quarterbacks are.
Brought to you by Giordano's Pizza.
That's right.
Come to Chicago and get thick crust.
That's right. So. We're the. Nah, I was going to say so. I won't do it.
Don't do it. Anyway, all right. Let's get to some of the games because that's what we watched all weekend and we referred to before.
Football, you bet.
A little bit of football. So let's start with the let's go in order. Let's start with the first game. The Bills and the Colts. Bills
survived. They didn't look like world beaters.
They didn't look like world beaters, but they survived the Colts. Colts gave them a good game. They won. Bills won their first playoff game in 25 years. Rivers played hard. Josh Allen played a little better. But yeah, 27-24 is final score.
Maybe it shouldn't have been that close. That was definitely a fumble.
Yeah.
That wasn't called a fumble even after the review. So.
Yeah.
Right.
And Rivers threw a bad interception at the end.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, is Buffalo at a point now where they don't have to dominate for us to continue to say yes, they're good?
Oh, I think they're good. I expected them to win by 2 touchdowns in going
right.
away.
But in other words, the fact that they didn't win by 2 touchdowns, we go, well, maybe they're not quite as good as we thought, or do we say, yeah, they're still as good as I thought they were? They just didn't dominate.
Going in, I thought they would continue to rise and maybe just give some hope of somebody giving Kansas City a run for their money in the AFC, and I don't see it.
Right.
So I mean, they could turn around and have a much better game. There's just something they seemed to be playing. They made a lot of mistakes, and they didn't seem.
Maybe the moment was a little big for them because it has been,
And they didn't quite convert when they needed to, and they sort of clammed up in the second half. But we'll see.
Maybe it was nerve.
Big win. You got to be happy for the people of Buffalo.
This is true. Let me ask you a question. Do you think Rivers will retire?
No.
He'll play. He'll play. I mean, not that there's been any talk about it. I'm just speculating here. You don't think he will?
No, I don't think so.
Philip Rivers has been the same quarterback forever. I mean, the last 10 years, he's the same quarterback. He's really good. He just seems to force the ball every once in a while in a bad moment, and that's what you walk away with.
Right.
That one touchdown pass, the last touchdown pass that he threw was – it doesn't get any better than that.
This is true.
And they still have most of the offensive line that they put together for Andrew Luck, I think.
Yeah.
Which was designed to protect him, and so he's going to like that. And they still, I mean, they were a little bit up and down early in the season, but Indy is built on their defense. At least they were this season. Right? Surprisingly good defense. And so good offensive line and a good defense. Why wouldn't you want to be in that situation? As long as your body holds up.
Yeah, I think he'll come back. I think Breeze is more of a – there's been more talk about Breeze potentially retiring than Rivers. I think Rivers will be back.
Well, we will see. We shall see. Let's go to the mid-afternoon game. I should say late afternoon game. The Rams over the Seahawks. Rams beat the Seahawks 30-20. Goff played pretty damn good for a guy with a broken thumb.
Who didn't start?
That didn't start. Yeah,
who wasn't supposedly well enough to start.
Yeah.
Definitely. But he was definitely hampered, and unless he has some miraculous recovery over the course of this week, he's not.
Well, and how much did him not starting kind of motivate the defense? Right. You know, not that they should need motivation, but they played a hell of a game, and I think it also just kind of proves that Seattle is not as good. I think the Rams defense is darn good. I don't think Seattle is as good as they were. The second half of the season, they just weren't what everybody was projecting them to be in the beginning.
Yeah. Right.
And they're limited. They're limited, and the Rams exposed them.
Well, look, the Rams are the number one defense in the NFL, and they played like it, and that's what they're built on more than their offense. And
sure,
look, Goff at his best has been inconsistent at times, right? He's been brilliant at times, but he's stunk up the joint too.
No, and he doesn't have the weapons he had his first couple of years. When they went to the Super Bowl, he had a lot more. It seemed like he had a lot more weapons around him.
Yeah. But unless he, can figure out how to throw much more than 8 to 12 yards down the field with any sort of, he can't really do that. Yeah. They're not going to go anywhere else. That's for sure.
Yeah, and then they're banged up a lot too. I mean, between Goff's thumb and their Wolford is out because of his, he got that horrible head collision with Jamal Adams there.
Yeah,
mostly.
But it's still an interesting matchup with the Packers, but more because of the Rams. The Packers defense is no great shakes either, but
they've been the most improved in the second.
Right. I mean, if you had to say, would you rather take the matchup of the Rams defense against the Packers or the Packers defense against the Rams with Goff with a hurt hand? I think you'd say the Packers defense,
right,
against Goff with an injured hand and not many weapons.
Exactly.
But look, defensively, I think it works out pretty well for the Rams, or there's a decent matchup because Rodgers, doesn't have a ton of weapons either. He's making the most out of what he has.
Yeah, he has weapons. I don't buy that so much. I mean, they've put up some pretty big numbers this year. But they haven't, the Packers beat the Saints. The Packers beat the Packers have beaten some good teams. They've lost to the Colts. I don't know. I don't think that have the Packers and Rams played this year. They haven't, have they?
No. Well, we'll see.
It's an interesting matchup. But.
Just referring specifically of the Rams Seahawks game. I think it was more. The Rams did play a decent game. I'm not going to play. They didn't play a great. They didn't play a great game. They played a decent game, but they also were playing a team that hit their stride early in the season and kind of came down from there. Their Seahawks weren't what they've been in the past, and they certainly weren't what they were in the beginning of the season at the end either. So,
I think
that had a lot to do with that. Loss.
They were a 12-5 team though.
Yeah.
But could you make? What's the question of the one of the worst 12-5 teams we've seen in a while?
Right. Yeah, just think about that though. The Seahawks did lose to the Giants, and the Rams did lose to the Jets. So, there's that.
And the Seahawks beat the Rams.
And the Seahawks beat, exactly. Twice. No, the Rams, did they split during the regular season?
They split, but the Rams beat them, and then a couple of weeks later, a month later, the Seahawks beat them pretty convincingly, 20-9.
Gotcha.
They're one of those teams. The Seahawks, the Rams, the Steelers. They're unpredictable. You don't know. Yeah. You don't know what you're going to get.
You don't know what you're going to get. Yeah. Well, moving on to the night game on Saturday, the Bucks over the WFTs, Bucks over team, 31-23. Bucks, Bucks almost let them back into the game. But
when doesn't that happen in sports nowadays?
This is true. Everybody's playing prevent offense and prevent defense in the second quarter, so you get more than a two score lead, and you might as well sit on it, as Giants MO for years. But I think everybody's doing it at some point.
And Washington's defense is not bad. They have a good defense.
The defense is good, and Heineke was the big surprise, and maybe Tampa Bay was figuring, well, he can't play this well the entire game.
Yeah, right? Who's this guy? We're gonna
eventually he's going to
the floor with these guys.
So we just got to sit back and wait for him to make a mistake.
Right.
I think Tampa Bay looked pretty good. I mean, they scored 31 points. Brady was 22 of 40, 381 yards, 2 touchdowns. He spread the ball around. They ran the ball pretty well with Fournette.
Right.
They made the Washington defense look lesser than they have in a lot of games this season, and that was their strong point going in. So
it was. You think Washington found their quarterback? Well, they certainly at least found a solid backup. But you think
who knows?
Now, listen, who was
I'm sure there's a movie coming out of that.
Who was Brady's backup? That
Garoppolo
in New England?
Yeah, Garoppolo.
No. Before that, Brady got hurt and he had some success, and then he went somewhere out west. I think
went to Kansas City.
Stidman?
No, he went to Kansas City.
Yeah. Well,
Moore, not Moore.
I can't
forget.
He didn't fare too
Who the hell knows?
But listen, it was a while ago. Yeah,
Heineke could get, he could get kind of a gig like that.
He could do that, sure, absolutely. We'll see. Let's move on to Sunday. Ravens and the Titans. Ravens didn't win convincingly. It wasn't like they blew out the Titans. Not that they were gonna, but
Matt Castle.
Yeah.
There we go.
Matt Castle. There you go. It was pretty much the Lamar Jackson show, right?
Right.
He threw for 170 yards and he ran for 136 yards.
Well, I texted my nephew who lives in Baltimore and is a Ravens fan. I go, the only way Baltimore is going to win this game is if he runs the ball as much or more than he's passing it today. Because the beginning of the game, they looked horrible.
They're down 10-0.
Yeah, and he ran the ball quite a bit, and he's just one. I mean, obviously he can pass the ball, but that interception was a horrible throw.
Oh, it was bad. That was
it just seemed out of sync until he's at times seems out of sync when he's just dropping back and playing and trying to read when he can create running the ball up through a crowded field up the middle. He seems to ignite that team, and it seems to help them.
The defense held Derrick Henry to 40 yards.
Yeah,
that man's been rushing for about 900 yards a quarter, and we held him to 40 yards.
Yeah, I don't want to play the Ravens. I said that going in. I do not want to play the Ravens. I think they are the team to look out for out of teams that people sort of forgot about towards the end of the year.
Right.
Yeah, I think they did the job on Derrick Henry, and Tannehill didn't exactly put the team on his shoulders.
No.
Well, he started out good. He looked, they were moving the ball pretty well. Baltimore's defense made some good adjustments.
Baltimore's defense is good, and there's a lot of the we talk about the hype, the pundits hype and all that, and this is his coming out. He's got the playoff monkey off his back, and he's
he won a game, so now he can go.
Listen, they were down 10-0. He pulled off one of the most amazing runs probably any of us will ever see.
Right.
But to think, to say, well, this is evidence that Lamar Jackson has finally arrived. I don't know about that.
No,
I don't know. About that.
How often can I was right. He had 17 completions and he had 16 carries. He had 16 carries for 136 yards. I mean, that's not going to happen in the playoffs every game.
No, it's not. Absolutely not.
But Baltimore's defense looked really good.
Yeah, they did.
And Baltimore's won 12 games. And they haven't played necessarily, an easy schedule. They play in a tough division that's made for playoff football. I don't want to play the Ravens. They're very untraditional. You can't. They're going to win a game like this 20-13. Their defense probably going to score a touchdown. They're going to kick a lot of field goals, and they're going to play great defense. I don't want to play them. They look like a team that is playing with a chip on their shoulder. And Lamar Jackson does not look nearly as good as he did last year when he won the MVP, but I don't think he has to.
No.
Who's a better matchup against KC? Bills or the Ravens?
Better matchup for a good game, or better matchup for KC to win?
For a good game. Who's got more of the goods?
I still want to see the Bills and the Chiefs
because they're more complete.
Yeah,
I think the Bills and Chiefs will be a higher scoring game. The Bills don't have a bad defense. I think the Ravens could hold off. Here's who could beat the Chiefs. The Bills offense combined with the Ravens defense could give the Chiefs a decent game.
So maybe if this week, if the Bills defense and the Ravens offense, those two teams lose,
and alternating
Allen, the other team and go out, and there you
alternating Allen and Lamar Jackson at quarterback.
There you go.
Playing two quarterbacks at once.
Let me give you a stat right here. Since December 1st of this year, rushing yards per game. Okay, the Saints have 151 rushing yards per game. The Packers have 155.4 rushing yards per game. The Titans have 166.8 rushing yards per game. The Colts have 168.5 rushing yards per game. The Ravens have 243.1 rushing yards per game.
Nah. I mean, that's one of the reasons why, if I had to honestly answer your question, I think the Ravens have a better shot of winning. Only because they could hold on to the ball and play better D, and they could keep the ball. I think they are better at keeping the ball out of Mahomes' hands, potentially.
Right, but Mahomes only needs 3 minutes to score a touchdown, though.
Sure.
So
he doesn't even need that. He needs 3 plays.
Three plays to score a touchdown.
But Kansas City hasn't. They've looked a little out of sync. Now, granted, they're still obviously the favorites.
They've won more games than they did last year.
I understand that.
Looking out of sync.
Right. But they haven't won by a lot in these games. And they've kept their
doesn't matter.
Well, it does, because they've kept the games a little closer. And so
right.
Yeah, but who's been chasing them?
They've always been chasing teams to come back and win, but the Chiefs haven't been in a game where they're up by 3 with a minute left and they don't have the ball. It seems like they always have the ball. So, I mean,
Yeah, I get you.
I think it's a toss-up. I was more impressed, but I think Baltimore beating a really good Titans team, which is a completely different team than what Kansas City is.
Sure.
Than I was with the Bills getting by an Indianapolis team. I think the Titans were better than the Colts. I think, so we'll see.
We'll see.
But nobody has that much of a chance.
Just remember, Ryan Tannehill is not Patrick Mahomes.
No,
and
he's not.
Nobody is Patrick Mahomes, with the exception of maybe Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers does not have. Aaron Rodgers doesn't look to his 8th best guy and have an guy who led the league in rushing.
Right.
I mean, it's just
right.
He doesn't go to his 3rd best receiver and it's Travis Kelce, the best tight end in football.
Right.
I mean, it just doesn't happen.
There's somebody he could do his 9th check down, and he still got somebody who's winning an award.
Right. Yeah. So, it's like, all right. Yeah. Oh yeah, you. Yeah. Here you go.
Do we need to talk about the Saints and the Bears?
I was just going to say the only thing that I wanted to point out in the Saints and the Bears game was the Nickelodeon stream for the game.
Oh, I heard about that. I didn't see it.
I went.
Why is it so hard to find sports on television now? It's like
no. CBS broadcast it.
I know,
but whatchamacallit, they put it on Nickelodeon. I guess they're trying to get the young fan.
Made a special broadcast for
kids. Yeah. SpongeBob was in the goalpost every time they kicked the field goal.
It's a little less violent than SpongeBob. Right?
Anytime somebody scored, the whole end zone got slimed. It was interesting. And then after the game, they actually shot a video or whatever. Sean Payton was sitting, and they actually literally slimed him for Nickelodeon. That was interesting.
Yeah.
But Hey, you know what? It's something fun. Whatever. You didn't want to watch it. You didn't have to. I flipped back and forth like 2 or 3 times just to check it out, see what the hell's going on. They had a couple of younger kids. Not younger
what we need is more razzmatazz and marketing in the NFL.
It was all marketing.
There wasn't enough.
It was marketing for kids. It wasn't marketing for adults or anything. It was
sure.
Kids.
Yeah.
I'd rather see SpongeBob than another country singer sing Monday Night Football theme. So that's fine with me.
I just wonder if these kids are going to get older and they're going to start watching the regular, the network broadcast.
Where's the slime?
And they're going to go with it. This is not nearly as exciting. No one got slimed. There was no SpongeBob. Patrick didn't hold the ball on the head of the kick.
Right,
but listen, they're trying to get the younger fans involved. Let's see how the numbers are. If it does anything, listen. If it works, Major League Baseball can take a page out of that book.
There you go.
Maybe the kids can teach. So here's my biggest frustration with watching football. Is during these times, what are the masks doing? Like, everybody's tested, okay? Everybody's tested negative to play. The coaches are wearing masks, but they're pulling them down to yell at people. And then after the game, after they've basically had this contact with each other the whole game, then 1 out of every 10 players puts a masks on to say congratulations.
Right.
What are we doing? Stop it. Just either wear them. I'm all for the coaches wearing them, but they don't know how to do it. They just either wear them or don't wear them.
And I don't see why they feel like they can't be hurt if you have a mask on. They're not made of iron. They're not.
Everybody else is doing it. Look, if the guy at Walmart can do it, then I'm sure that
Right, but I mean, there's a guy who's standing right next to him.
Right.
If you have the mask on, you're talking to him. Do you really need to pull it down? You can still hear what he's saying. He's standing right next to you, but they could pull it down and they go.
And you would think,
as you said,
just a really good lip reader, and that's what.
And if you're yelling at people, they're definitely going to hear you through.
And if you can't, it's the NFL. Get some masks with a little filter and speaker in it, so you can do Darth Vader impersonations on the side.
Right, exactly.
Or don't wear them.
You know what? My kid used to have an Iron Man helmet.
Yeah.
That you could put on, and then you could talk. I can't wait. It would make noise. Yeah, get that sort of technology.
Absolutely.
Going.
Yeah, it's just, and the face shield. I love the. Don't get me. It's too much. It's too much.
To wrap up the Saints and the Bears, I mean, it was the beginning game was a slow start, but once the game got going, once the Saints got going, they just dominated.
Look, Bears defense held on as long as they could.
They could, yeah, and that was it.
They got no support from the offense.
None at all.
Were the Bears?
I was watching the Giants actually.
Were the Bears a better team than Washington?
It would have been a good game if they played each other. Let's put it that way.
It wouldn't have been a game no one watched, but yeah.
Right, yeah. Exactly.
I mean, if what's his name catches that touchdown pass, which hit him in a bad spot right in the breadbasket, you got a different game.
Right. You do.
I mean, New Orleans won, and we knew they were going to win. It wasn't really at any point close, but
no.
If that touchdown stands up, we got a little bit of a different game. The Bears aren't going to win, but New Orleans is the team that I just don't know about. You kind of want to see. I think everybody wants to see New Orleans versus Green Bay, but right. I just don't know with the Saints. I just don't know. Yeah. They look. I mean, Breeze looked good. He looked healthy. He looked like he was.
He looked like he belonged there.
Yeah.
He looked like he wasn't rushed by back or anything like that.
Yeah.
He's better.
He did say he came back one game too early.
Yeah, he did.
Too late now.
Yeah. Well, now you're back for good.
There you go. All right, let's wrap it up with the games from last week on the interesting Sunday night game. The Ben Turnover Roethlisberger show was the Browns' first playoff win in 26 years. Turnovers were ridiculous, but the fact that and the turnovers were the game. Those turnovers don't happen. The Steelers are winning the game.
But I mean, they scored as much points as the Pistons and Indiana Pacers in the 90s.
Yeah,
it's just,
it's funny that Roethlisberger threw for over 500 yards. They scored 37 points and lost. That's what happens when you turn the ball over 5 times.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, and two of those interceptions I put on him. Two of them were not on him.
I put one of them on him. The other three were tipped. Yeah. One of them was he just threw it right to him. The other three were tipped. But the first turnover was and
he had another touch. He had another touchdown that was kind of should have had passing wise. I mean, 500 yards. I don't think he's done. I just think that team is a bunch of head cases right now. There's something we've seen it for a number of years now. There's something about the Steelers where something isn't right, and I'm not suggesting that they change coaches, but I think once Roethlisberger goes, there might have to be a little bit of a look at what's going on there. It just they're just I don't know, and the fact that you let Cleveland score 48 points. Now, granted, I mean, Baker Mayfield's playing the kind of controlled game that you want out of a quarterback. I mean, he threw for 263 yards, no interceptions, 3 touchdowns. He threw it 34 times, which is in today's NFL is not a ton. Right. And they ran the ball. And did they score a defensive touchdown?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, they scored a defense. 1 or 2 actually. But
two actually, or one on a So I mean that's really
the defensive first play of the game, that one, and then there was another one too.
Right.
But that on that play specifically, though, I don't know if you watched it. I watched it several times. Roethlisberger wanted nothing to do with falling on that ball.
No,
he was standing right there, and he let the kid come in and try to fall on the ball, and Roethlisberger just stood there and watched the Browns score. He wanted nothing to do with getting hit.
It's like when your grandmother dropped something on the kitchen floor and she pretends to get it, until it was like he was holding his back and going there. It's right there.
Her hands off on the towel and put
right
the towel
there. Somebody get
it. Well, look,
he wanted nothing to do with that ball.
This game probably shouldn't have been as close as it was. No. I think the Steelers got.
They settled down, right? They settled down. He stopped forcing the ball. He made some better throws. Had take 2 of those turnovers away, and the Steelers win this game. They could have still had 3 turnovers.
But the thing about Cleveland is, though, I mean, I don't know if there's a more Jekyll and Hyde team than Cleveland this season, and we've seen almost every team in the league have their good days and bad days, as you always do, but maybe more so. Or we chalk it up to 2020 and COVID and all that stuff, but. When they're on, that's a pretty potent offense. And
they're kind of an old school team. I mean, they
run
well, heavy.
They run well, and they pass well. And when Baker's in the groove, they are a potent offensive team.
I mean, wouldn't it be just summarize the last year of this world if it was Cleveland and Buffalo? Look, if Cleveland and Buffalo are the AFC Championship game, the suicide rate in the United States is going to dip by 30%.
Well, look, if the Chiefs have kind of one of their down games, and Cleveland can crank it up offensively, right? Yeah. We talked about the Chiefs' defense. I know early in the season. And we kind of went, they seem like they're even better than last year. But over the course of the season, maybe they're not that much better than last year.
Right.
Maybe the Browns can exploit that.
The Browns, I think, are the kind of team, much like the Ravens, where I don't think they're going to come down from more than 10, 14 points. They're just not going to happen. But they are the kind of team that can get off to a really good start, and all of a sudden Kansas City's in a position which they find themselves in often where, all right, we're down 14-3, and now we got to throw the ball. And then if you're coming from behind, then it opens up the possibility of some turnovers. And it also gives Cleveland the opportunity to do what they do best, which is run the ball and control
the clock and keep Mahomes and company off the field.
And I don't think there's a better. I mean, you could talk about Derrick Henry and the Titans, but this Cleveland team, when they're with those rushing stats that John talked about with Baltimore, a lot of that's Lamar Jackson. With Cleveland, it's not Baker Mayfield running it all that often. It's just handoff after handoff. It's 6 yards at a time.
It's Chubb and Hunt. It's the Chubb and Hunt show.
Yeah, I mean, that's some really good offensive duos. But I don't know if you find two guys out of the backfield better
You have two. They have the Browns have two number one running backs.
Yeah, the most potent tandem in football in that Cleveland backfield.
Yeah. I mean, taking away the Chargers game with the Chiefs, which the Chiefs didn't really play anybody. The Chiefs, it's been a mixed bag. I mean, they beat New Orleans, which is a good team. They beat the Dolphins. Almost the same scores. So they're not giving up a ton of points, but every game has been close. Every game has been close. 17-14, 32-29, 33-27, 27-24. Even against the Broncos, 22-16, 35-31, 33-31. I mean, they blew out the Broncos in the first game. Of course, they blew out the Jets. But other than that, they've been fairly close games. I still think they're the team, obviously, to beat. But there's some – maybe they're
more vulnerable to have that down.
Or are they bored? Is it, the Lakers in the regular season? I don't know. It's just I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see if they get into that situation where they're, sometimes you flip that switch and it doesn't do anything, and as good as Mahomes is, he has to make some mistakes sometime. No one can be perfect. And, could be that Cleveland is the team that capitalizes on that.
And it might not come down to Mahomes. It might actually be the case that maybe you can exploit Kansas City's defense and control and not give Mahomes the ball enough for him to, so that at the end of the game, he doesn't have the ball in his hand with a chance to win. Because if he does, then odds are it's over.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, we'll see what happens with that. So why don't we, I know we've been talking about a little bit of it, so why don't we just wrap up what we've been speaking about, not in a beaten by the coin moment just yet, but as far as the divisional weekend goes, matchup-wise, we'll do our picks afterwards. We'll start with Saturday's game. The Packers and the Rams. Packers are the number 1 seed, Rams the number 6 seed. What do we feel about that matchup? Any specifics in the matchup?
We may as well do our picks.
Well, no, I mean, I'm just talking about the matchup itself, like talking about each team and so forth, and just I mean, if we can do if you want to do an extended beaten by the coin, we can do that too, and have that. But
look, the Rams have the best defense and the best scoring defense, and the Packers have the number 1 scoring offense.
Right.
So that's pretty much what this, you say, okay, well, maybe those two things will, end up in a stalemate, so to speak, or something.
Right.
And maybe it really comes down to, can Jared Goff and his ruptured thumb score enough points against a somewhat suspect Packers defense? Maybe that's the story underneath. Maybe that's where the game really comes down to it.
Maybe it is. And remember, Aaron Donald, he had what was his injury? He had, I got it written here. Looking for it. Here we go. He's got torn rib cartilage. That's what it is.
Yeah, and he's needle in there, and he's good.
He's gonna play. He's gonna play. It's not like he's gonna sit out for the game. But how much is that gonna hamper him? Is he gonna be 100% Aaron Donald, or is he gonna be 80% Aaron Donald?
80% Aaron Donald's enough.
It's still better. It's still better than most. Yeah.
If he's 100% Aaron Donald, but maybe he has to take a few extra plays off.
Right.
He can still be effective too.
Sure.
If the Packers don't turn the ball over and their defense plays as they have for the last part of the season, then I think it's a close game. But I think that's the key. I think for the Rams to win, they're going to have to force some turnovers, and they're going to have to get points off those turnovers.
Gotcha.
They're not going to, with Goff hurt, even with Goff healthy, they don't win, because I think the Packers are capable, even against this defense, of scoring 30 points. I don't think the Rams get to that.
Right.
So I think it's good. I think, especially on offense. So I think the Rams have to force a fumble or two, have a really good day on special teams and defense, and put themselves in a position where they're scoring 12 to 15 points off of turnovers to be able to win this game.
I got you.
Bigger bill for the Rams offense against the Green Bay defense than it is for the Green Bay defense against even that excellent Rams defense.
Sure, absolutely.
Green Bay offense versus the defense.
Maybe you're right. Maybe Harry, maybe you were right. Maybe we should just go into beaten by the coin at this point.
Sure.
Discuss them in there. So beaten by the coin.
Beaten by the coin.
I'm sure I'll lose to the coin.
No one wants to be beaten by the coin.
All right, we're coming down to the wire here, and as usual, pretty much everything is the same. We all went 4-2.
Not bad.
Yeah, that includes the coin, and it's now just the coin is now just 2 games under 500, which is respectable for
respectable for a piece of metal.
The coin may come in fourth, but it won the NFC East.
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, I picked up a game with Washington, and then with LA, and then gave it right back with Washington. So Harry and I remain tied.
There you go.
Yeah, good pick with the Rams. That game was a tough one. The Rams and Seahawks. The Rams are interesting. The Rams are interesting.
They are. I put a lot of faith in Washington's defense, and I thought they would. I thought the one big mistake they made. Sorry, I don't want to talk about last week's games anymore. But is they didn't try and punch Brady in the mouth enough.
Right. They couldn't get to him, and I think they did. But I thought Alex Smith not playing. We thought
Alex Smith not playing was something of it, but I thought they would have been a little bit more creative in trying to get to Tom Brady, because that's one thing he can do.
Tampa Bay's offensive line has been pretty good at protecting him.
Yeah, I think so. All right, so let's move on to what we got going on this week, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 games. And we do have the aforementioned LA Rams hosted by the Green Bay Packers.
Right.
And I'm going to let one of you guys pick first.
I'll jump in there. Like we were just saying before, it's definitely the Packers offense versus the Rams defense, right? That's the game right there. But the Rams do have some injuries, and on defense as well. They also have not played a game, and I know this really doesn't matter, but they have not played a game in below freezing temperature in 2 years. Okay. And it's going to be interesting too, because Matt LaFleur and Sean McVay they're not only former colleagues, they're good friends too. They talk on a regular basis, and one of them, I forget, one of them was quoted as saying they're this Saturday they're enemies, but they're friends the other days. But it's going to be interesting. I think, like we were saying before, Harry, it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to the offense of the Packers and the defense of the Rams. Yeah. If the Packers defense can keep playing, I totally agree with that. Keep playing at the level they were playing. But yeah, the Packers. I'm going with the Packers. I think the Packers. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be a good game. They're not blowing anybody. I always get blown out.
No, if the Packers don't turn the ball over, I think you're looking at a close one, maybe 24-20, 24-21.
27-24.
Something like that. Yeah, and I think the Packers... This is sort of how I felt about the Saints last week.
Right.
I think the Packers have to win this. Yeah. I think Aaron Rodgers has... he's
Aaron Rodgers is on a mission.
He's on a mission. And this is a game they should win. It's not going to be easy. They're at home. They're rested. Doesn't seem like they have any major injuries or COVID-related... people being out, and the Packers defense has improved, and I think they'll be able to bottle up the receivers of the Rams. So again, it's going to come down to the Rams defense being able to get to Rodgers, create turnovers, and get points off of it. Yeah. And I think the Packers will do a good enough job. They're a veteran team, and I think they'll protect the ball. So I think the Packers win.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Packers offense versus the Rams defense. I kind of look at it as a stalemate. There's going to be points scored and there's going to be stops made. And I think the underlying story is, can the Rams score enough against the Packers? And with Goff hurt, I don't think so. So I think Green Bay wins this one. And you're right, they're home, they're rested, it's cold weather, and that's not LA's jam.
It's Green Bay football, the frozen tundra.
Green Bay football, yeah. Coin says heads, which is the home team.
There you go.
So we're all in agreement. Baltimore and Buffalo. Man. Good games here.
Real good games.
Again, I don't necessarily buy the narrative that Lamar Jackson has now arrived and any of the issues that he had.
Lamar Jackson arrived 2 years ago.
Well, but I mean, as far as getting it done in the playoffs, and
you could say the same thing about Josh Allen. He didn't look. I mean, he looked okay, but he made some.
But he's a much better quarterback this year than he was last year.
Yeah,
I don't know if you could really say that about Lamar Jackson, but I think Baltimore is on a mission, and I think they have enough defense to slow Buffalo down. And I'm not sure Buffalo can say the same thing about slowing Baltimore down. And I'm going to take the Ravens for the win.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I'm riding the purple bird.
John, what do you think? I'm still stewing on that.
I'm stewing myself as well. You know what? I think it's gonna come down to Allen's passing versus Lamar Jackson's running. You know, that's really what it's going to come down to, and that's not a stretch for me to say that by any means. But Ravens rushing is insane right now, but the Bills seem to be on that mission. I know you said, Pete, that the Ravens are on a mission. Well, I mean, everybody's on a mission at this point in the season, you know. But you know what? I just think there's a little magic happening up in Buffalo. It's going to be a really close game, and it could go either way.
I'm going to type a B.
I'm leaning to the Bills.
You going to go with the Bills?
Bills, yeah.
All right, BUF. There we go.
This is another game. I just don't know. I agree with both of you guys. I'm just going to spice things up and make a little bit different pick than Pete. I think the difference in this game is going to come down to Stephon Diggs.
Yep.
If he can really do what he's done all year, I think he's the one guy on both teams receiving wise. Although I think he's the difference maker, and I think the Bills will do a better job of forcing Jackson to throw the ball more. But look, this could go either way. But I don't know. I think this is more of a pick just because I want them to win. I'm going to go with the Bills. I mean, I can't believe I'm sitting here in the NFL playoffs rooting for Buffalo and Cleveland. But there you go.
2020, baby. It's carrying over. It ain't over yet. Coin says tails.
Coin's with you?
Coin is with me.
There you go.
And picking the Ravens.
Whatchamacallit? I believe I heard, I'm going to check on this actually, but it just occurred to me. I believe I heard this afternoon that the Bills actually signed Devontae Freeman. Apparently the Giants released him. So, whatchamacallit's out. So they shored up their running backs. So Freeman's up in Buffalo now, playing for another New York team.
I didn't know you could do that. I guess
he can't play though, can he? Don't you have to have your rosters set by a certain? I
believe they signed him early enough. I think it was before last week because the Giants would have had him cut him beforehand. Because the Steelers did the same thing. The Steelers signed a member of the Colts. Or the Colts, yeah, somebody the Colts cut after the last week of the season. The Steelers signed him. He played on Sunday.
Yeah.
All right. It was weird. Anyway.
Well, listen, that's the narrative that I think the NFL wants. I think they want Buffalo to win.
Right.
So they'll allow it, whether it's right or wrong.
All right. I don't know about that.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. There's no conspiracy.
There's
the NFL does not have any agenda.
He's stirring the pot a little bit.
They want that huge market of Baltimore.
Yeah.
Of Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Yep. Yeah, Buffalo.
6-1.
All right. Cleveland at Kansas City.
All right.
This should be an easy pick, right?
Should be.
Kansas City. They're the number one team in the league, defending Super Bowl champions, Pat Mahomes. All of those offensive players. Le'Veon Bell is their third string running back, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Not really, but second string, maybe, right? Hilaire Edwards, I think, is the number one guy. They got Kelsey and they got Tyreek Hill and they got Jerry Rice's kid and Joe Montana's kid. They're amazing. But as Harry pointed out, they've had a lot of close games and haven't been really dominant except for a couple.
Yeah,
I think they're going to come out like a cannon. I think, and
they're fired up, right?
Like if the Chiefs jump out and score 2 touchdowns, it's over. And I think they're going to do that. I think they're going to finally get off to a strong start. They've been listening. They've been listening to their doubters. They've kind of quietly had one of the best seasons record-wise in a long time. And I think the Chiefs win. I mean, I kind of hope I'm wrong because I just hate, unless it's my team, I hate when the favorites just kind of blow through.
Yeah.
But they are the Alabama of the NFL. And I think the Browns have a great future. I just don't think they're going to go into Kansas City and win. And look, Andy Reid and that staff with a week off to prepare, I think they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, I think that's a big key to it. Is they've had a week to digest everything about Cleveland, including the game, against Pittsburgh.
Sure.
So I tend to agree. They really are just too good, and there's really hasn't been enough indication that they can't turn it on when they want to. Eventually, they're going to maybe hit that game where the switch just doesn't do anything, but I don't think it's going to be in the divisional round against the Cleveland Browns.
I'm not sure this is the last time they faced each other, but I think I'm right. The last time Mayfield and Mahomes played each other
was in the national title game, right?
Was a 66-59.
Yeah, it was
win with Baker Mayfield.
Mayfield won.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. If Cleveland gets down by a couple scores, then they're going to be pushing it. They're going to be prone to making mistakes. And I don't think if they can't mix in enough of the run, they don't have the.
Just listen to these stats. Listen to these stats real quick. I forgot about this.
800 something passing.
No. Baker Mayfield went 27 of 36 for 545 yards and 7 touchdowns. And Patrick Mahomes went 52 of 88 for 734 yards and 5 TDs.
734 yards. Oh, my God.
Mixon, who I think is on the Bengals now, right?
Yeah, he's on the Bengals.
Had 377 yards from scrimmage and 5 touchdowns.
I have a question. Did either of those teams play defense at all during this game?
No, it was a scrimmage.
And this weekend it's going to be like 13-9.
No, I think you'll see a
13-8,
30,
13-5,
and double throw a 44-yard touchdown and have almost as many passing yards as Mayfield did.
Well, as far as my pick goes, I mean, it's look, the Browns are a great story. I think the chapter ends this weekend. The Chiefs are winning the game, and it could very easily turn out to be a 38-31 or 33-31 game again. So
Chiefs are favored by 10.
Yeah, I don't. Well, we'll see. We'll see. The Browns, the Browns won last week. They played Pittsburgh 2 weeks in a row. And Pittsburgh obviously has.
In one game they didn't really play anybody.
And one game they didn't play anybody. Yeah, and the week before
they barely won.
And a couple weeks before that they lost to the Jets. So, look, it's the same story we were talking about before. Which team are you going to get, right? But I don't think they're going to be able to get by Kansas City. It's just not going to happen. Yeah. Although I will say one thing. Just see the report. They interviewed Kareem Hunt after the game on Sunday, and he said next week it's personal. Because he's very, very, very upset that the Chiefs got rid of him. So it's personal for him. So he wants to be a one-man wrecking crew and put the Chiefs
good luck with that, Kareem.
So. Good luck. Why don't you wind up on defense and try to cover? Tyreek Hill.
There you go.
Let's see what the coin says. Coin says tails. So they like the Cleveland Browns.
And Claypool on the
Steelers.
On the Steelers, yeah. Is that Les Claypool's son?
Yes.
Sure.
It is, right?
Why not?
Yeah. Whatchamacallit?
Obscure reference of the day.
He said that
Les Claypool.
He said, Les Claypool, obscure reference of the day. He said that it was a bad loss for the Steelers, but next week the Browns are going to get clapped. So he's okay with it. So that's his quote.
They follow COVID protocol. They won't get the clap.
There you go.
That brings us to Tampa Bay at Nolans.
There you go.
And you know what? I'm going to flip the coin first because I don't think we ever do that.
No, let the coin go first.
So let's get the coin go first. And the coin says heads, which is the Nolans Saints.
There you go.
I just put in Johnny's box. I'm sorry. Move that over. So there we go.
You can leave it in Johnny's box.
Well, listen, we talked about Tampa Bay being in the thick of this thing until the end, right? Maybe getting to the Super Bowl. And despite a few ups and downs, they have done it.
These are two good teams,
Yeah, they're both very good.
These are the two best combined 89-year-old quarterbacks that I've ever seen.
Well, there is a graphic that they're putting up for this game. It's going to be Sunday night. It's going to be televised on the History Channel, and here's the two Two quarterbacks right there. Tom Brady on the left and Drew Brees on the right.
Brady's got that almost a David Letterman beard going.
He's got that David Letterman beard going.
He looks like a barista from Williamsburg.
He looks like the cousin of the most interesting man alive.
That's right. He definitely makes furniture out of recycled leather parts and tree trunks. And on the weekends, he makes the best kombucha latte in all of
kombucha latte.
Yeah.
And then of course Drew Brees looks like any 7th grade history teacher.
Or somebody that's not allowed next to a playground.
6'1".
Yeah, he looks to me looks kind of like a guy who sits in Starbucks writing his novel.
Yeah, if he goes into a used car delership and starts looking at vans, they say maybe not, maybe not.
Could you leave, sir? Yeah.
Can I help you, sir? I don't think so. Get out,
folks. Anybody listening to the podcast on the audio feed, you're going to want to just check out the rebroadcast on Facebook or YouTube of the live feed and check this out. This was actually, or you can actually just go to Twitter too. Tom Brady actually posted this picture yesterday, so that's pretty funny. Drew Brees shared it within 5 minutes.
I mean, I don't know. They both look pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Drew Brees is holding the ball lefty though.
Yeah.
But you know what's here? Let me put this back up again.
I mean, he looks like Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, Drew Brees in this picture is only about 10 years older than he is right now. Tom Brady in this picture is about 110 years older than he is right now.
It's just the gray. He still looks good. He still looks younger than the George Blanda picture
right.
When he was 43.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like this is a picture where Drew Brees was coming back after being out of the league for a while, right. And Tom Brady just retired.
Just missed it.
And that's what they look like.
There you go.
If football had old timers games, this is what they would look like. You know, like when the Yankees waddle out some dude who's like gained like 600 pounds since his playing days. He pitches like 2/3 of an inning and then has to be sent to the hospital.
Right.
Yeah,
he's being ambulance to St. Vincent's because he This is sort of what this looks like.
So anyway,
well, I'm gonna pick this one. I'm gonna pick New Orleans. I'm taking the Saints.
I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to come down to which defense plays better and is able to play longer. Stay off the field more. And I think that's going to be. The Saints. I think the Saints are going to win this game. Remember, we have 85 years combined age between both quarterbacks. Both capable of big numbers. I think it's going to come down to the defenses, and actually, to be quite honest with you, it could very well come down to who's on the field last.
Yeah. The logical side of me, the Spock side of me, says the Saints will win this game, but I will be rooting for Tampa Bay.
Okay.
I want to see Brady make it back. I want him to win one more. I just
6 isn't enough.
No, I want both these guys to win it and then retire and get the fuck out of the league. But I just think Tampa Bay's still got some question marks. I think New Orleans has been playing together longer, and I'll be honest with you. I think it's a coaching edge. I just give the coaching edge to New Orleans. Now, New Orleans has come up short in a lot of games, playoff games of the last 3 or 4 years that they should have won.
Yeah.
So I was tempted to pick Tampa Bay, but I'm going to go with the Saints.
Gotcha. I concur. The Saints, you know what? It's a great story, and and I'm sure Brady and company would love to stick it to Mr. Belichick up in New England, saying, "Hey, look, you didn't even make the postseason, and I went into the Super Bowl without you." So, and that would be a good narrative for that. But no, the Saints are winning the game. It's going to be close. It's going to be a good game, and that's it's probably a good thing that it's the late game on Sunday. It's got that 6:40 start, that Super Bowl start time. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think the Saints are winning. So there you go.
All right. So and I'm glad you picked New Orleans, Harry, because we have one difference between us. So one of us is going to be a game ahead after this week.
All right.
Depending on the Buffalo-Baltimore game. So that's a good. In fact, I was thinking I should have let you pick first, and then I might have just picked the opposite.
Well, you still can. You can change it if you want.
Yeah, no, I don't know because we have the one different game, so that's better.
I was tempted just for to make things more interesting. I think this game is going to be closer. I don't think it's a shoe-in for the Saints, but
it's going to be a shootout, though,
right?
It might not. It might not be.
What's the over/under on this game?
I think it's probably 60.
What is the line?
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
The line has New Orleans by I think 4.5 or something like that.
That's probably a pretty good bet. So yeah, but I'm glad we do have the one differential. Look, it might get wiped out.
Saints by 3. I think it started at 4.5 and it's down to 3 now.
Saints by 3. So they just got the home field. That's it. They got the home field 3 points. That's all.
Yeah.
All right.
So it'll be a good game.
All right. There we go.
There you go. Beaten by the coin. All right. That brings us to our top 10 list of the week. Our top 10 list. We kept it in football. It's still football season, obviously postseason, but we kept it in football. We switched it up a little bit. We're done with players. We got some other stuff we're going to be doing. But this week we did top 10 football movies of all time. Top 10 football movies of all time. Well, in usual fashion with us, we each put our 10 in. And we did our voting and we did our calculating the way we do it. And folks, this actually happens every week. This week we have 15 movies that are our top 10 list.
And we'll try to be quick.
Well, they're movies, so there's not a lot of stats to give.
Well, there's always box office.
Yeah, well, box office, absolutely. So, we had 5 ties. We had a tie for 9th, a tie for 8th, a tie for 6th, a tie for 2nd, and we actually have a tie for the number 1 movie. So, and I'll give you a little hint. Those are actually the oldest 2 movies on the list, and they're the tie for the number 1 spot. Anyway, let's start. Let's kick it off. Harry, why don't you kick us off with number 10?
Number 10, also known as number 15, is... Let's kick it off with a bang. A little Scott Bakula, a little Hector Alonso, and a very young Jason Bateman. And some Rob Schneider. Yes, indeed, it's Necessary Roughness, a team about the fictional, at the time, Texas State football team. There is actually a Texas State University now. And look, this film, it touches on an up-and-coming season at the fictional Institute of Texas State University and its football team, the Fighting Armadillos. This was based on, I think, the team only having one player eligible to play after some violations that were handed down to them. And they were once the most powerful team in college football. And if they're winning consecutive conference and national championships, massive NCAA violations resulted in the program having to forfeit years worth of victories. All of the coaches are fired and all of the players are banned from returning and expelled from college except Charlie Banks, the only clean player who never got to play despite having heart. Look.
Thank you for that synopsis.
Yeah.
Wow, that was more than I ever knew nor wanted to know about that movie. I feel like I don't have to see it now.
Yeah,
we're good.
You don't. And the rest is... look, if you want to see a cameos by Kathy Ireland, and
that's what I'm going to say because of this place kicker right here on the right.
That's right.
You're going to want to watch the movie.
Yeah. So. She's my second favorite place kicker in this list, but
and a heck of an actress.
She really is, and I find her clothing line really comfortable.
Comfortable.
Yeah,
you want a lot of it. You have a couple closets worth.
I do. I have almost as much. Yeah, look. I'm going to try to be nice about this movie, but Scott Bakula and Sinbad is not necessarily a recipe for success.
It looks good on paper.
It did okay.
Much better on paper than on screen.
I think it was one of the first times that Sinbad was quoted as saying "pate." So,
Roger Ebert gave it 3 out of 4 stars.
There you go.
And the Los Angeles Times, this kind of sums it up, I think, called it a genial, slight, entirely predictable football comedy.
There you go.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
By the way,
those can be fun.
Absolutely.
Just not to go off too much, but these are players who had cameos in it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Rice, Roger Craig, Earl Campbell, Dick Butkus, Ben Davidson, Tony Dorsett, Ed Toothall Jones, Herschel Walker, Jim Kelly, and Randy White. and Chris Berman and Evander Holyfield. So
it was an all-star cast.
There was a lot of trailers on that set.
Ben Davidson never would have got the Conan the Barbarian gig if it wasn't for Unnecessary Roughness.
Absolutely not. Look, this film
launched his acting career.
The film still made over $26 million in 1991. So.
There you go. And also Rob Schneider, great announcer, reprised his role on the one skit on SNL with the Fumblerooski. That was interesting. So a lot of good talent back in '91. Yeah. So '91, right? That was the '90.
Rob, thank God for Adam Sandler Schneider.
There you go. All right.
Back when he could almost stand on his own merits.
There you go.
No.
Number 10, Necessary Roughness. I will take number 9. Number 9. Speaking of Adam Sandler, I will take number 9. Number 9 would be Waterboy. Waterboy, the Waterboy. Is it the Waterboy or is it Waterboy?
I think
it's the Waterboy. Yeah, there you go. So I'll throw the graphic up there. It came out in 1998. It was, give you the plot, Bobby Boucher Jr., a socially inept, stuttering 31-year-old, somewhat mentally challenged man, serving as the water boy for the University of Louisiana football program. He lives with his overprotective and extremely religious mother, Helen, and believes his father, Robert Sr., died of dehydration in the Sahara while serving in the Peace Corps back in the 60s. I won't read more of that. Anyway, so he goes to college, joins the team as their water boy. Winds up becoming the best defensive player in the world in football, let alone college. And the was it the SCLS whatever it is, the Mud Dogs. The South Central Louisiana State University Mud Dogs. That's what it is. You know what? Fun movie. A lot of interesting parts in it, but one of the good parts in it is this guy was in the movie. Made a cameo, Mr. LT. He's actually part and parcel of a couple of the movies on our list. This is the first one that will make reference to LT, football-wise movies on this list. But yeah, Bobby Boucher, just a crazy defensive talent in this movie. But hey, you know what?
If you like Tappy Gilmore and you want to trade in your golf clubs for a water can and a water boy.
Don't forget, and the wedding singer. Don't forget that. But right. Here's a couple other people who were in this movie. As Adam Sandler always said, Kathy Bates, Henry Winkler, Jerry Reed. Interesting people in this. And
Kathy Bates is just good in anything she does.
She really is. And here's your cameos for this movie would be Lawrence Taylor, obviously in that picture there. Lynn Swann, Jimmy Johnson, Bill Cower, Paul the Big Show White, and Rob Schneider is of course in this movie as well. So there you go. Number 9B, that was The Waterboy.
Top 10 movies with Rob Schneider.
He's the Michael Caine of Adam Sandler movies.
There you go. Pete, why don't you bring us to number 9A?
All right, number 9A, also known as number 34.
There you go.
Is, I believe, the only documentary on our list, and that is called
True Documentary. True. I think a lot of them are true stories, but yeah.
Yeah, right. This was not necessarily based on a true story. It was a true story. Mm-hmm. It's called Undefeated from 2011, which is basically more about their coach. It does follow 3 of the players of the Manassas high school team. This is the Manassas Tigers from a really rather poor, destitute, one might say, section of Memphis, Tennessee, and a team that really just doesn't win much and didn't win much. And this is kind of the story of their coach, Bill Courtney, and follows him and a couple of his players as they go for a winning season. I've been told it's very inspirational. I've never actually seen it.
It's good. It's really good.
But I guess Courtney was not a coach by trade. He offered to help try and turn the team around. And then I can't give you any spoilers because, like I said, I haven't seen it. But I guess, I don't know, did they win a playoff game at the end? breaking something like 100-year losing streak for the school, right, as far as their playoff aspirations go. So, reading about it makes me want to check it out. So I guess that's probably the biggest endorsement I can give for it.
There you go. Number 9A, Undefeated. I will take. I'm sorry, Pat.
Yes, indeed.
Why don't you bring us to number 9A?
9A is the.
I'm sorry, that was 9A. 8B.
8B.
I get confused with all these numbers on this list.
8B. 8B, almost the same as 9C. Is The Express, the Ernie Davis story, which I actually really like this film.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's a good movie.
It's all in the title. It's about Ernie Davis, who was the first African-American to win the Heisman Trophy, and kind of follows his career from Syracuse University to the Cleveland Browns, and how he kind of followed in Jim Brown's shadow quite a bit, both and then had a very sad sort of end to his professional career due to illness and health concerns. But a really great film. Who Rob Brown plays Ernie Davis, and Chadwick Boseman plays Floyd Little. And Floyd Little, who recently passed away, and I think a couple of weeks ago here, and was the first real superstar for the Denver Broncos, and is still a legend in this town for sure. So I highly recommend this. It's definitely not as over the top as a lot of football movies. It's actually a really good film. It stars Dennis Quaid, which I think almost every football movie has Dennis Quaid in it at some point.
Yeah, there's several on our list.
Yeah. If it's not a comedy with Rob Schneider, then it's
a drama Quaid. With Dennis Quaid. Yeah.
Yeah, he plays Ben Schwartzwalder, who is a Syracuse football head coach, who really was another guy who did a lot to sort of promote African-American athletes at the time. Yep. And it's a good story. I highly recommend it. The Express, the Ernie Davis story.
There you go. Number 8B, The Express. I'll take number 8A. Number 8A is Varsity Blues. Varsity Blues. That would be it was 1999 American coming-of-age sports comedy drama. Film directed by Brian Robbins. It was Jonathan Moxon, played by James Vanderbeek, an intelligent and academically gifted backup quarterback for the West Canaan High School varsity football team. Despite his relative popularity at school, easy friendships with other players, and smart and sassy girlfriend, played by Amy Smart, he's dissatisfied with his life. He wants to leave Texas and go to school at Brown. He's constantly at odds with his football-obsessed father, and dreads playing under legendary head coach Bud Kilmer, played by John Voight. Good roles by John Voight, by the way. He played definitely wanted to hate the man. If you haven't seen the movie, so verbally abusive, controlling authority who believes in winning at all costs. Kilmer has a strong track record as a coach, remarking in a speech that in my 30 years of coaching at West Canaan, I have brought 2 state titles and 22 district championships. Anyway, so there's Mox in the picture, and Billy Bob right there. Paul Walker, you can see him right on the side there. He's the quarterback that goes down when Mox comes in and takes over. Anyway, so that's Varsity Blues, and then of course the probably most talked about scene, if you haven't seen the movie, would be this one right here. Whipped cream bikini time. So anybody watching, if you haven't seen the movie, you might want to go watch it. So I think
that was my Halloween costume.
That was Pete's Halloween costume last year.
And the best thing about this film is there's no Rob Schneider.
No Rob Schneider in this movie. This actress was in Legally Blonde too, which just missed our list, by the way. But in any event,
it's only because there was no football.
Only because there was no football in it.
No, I mean, you know.
Anyway,
if we go on top 11, then Legally Blonde might.
Well, we would have had another 4 movies if we.
Well, if we did top 11, it would be the top 73 movies of all time.
So, in any event, there you go. Number 8A, Varsity Blues. P, why don't you bring us to number 7? First, finally, a number with no letter after it. Number 7.
7 with the
number 7 or 12 or something, whatever.
Something like that.
This is a movie that is based on a true story and a really heartbreaking story. It's We Are Marshall from 2006. The movie was made and it tells the story of the Marshall University Thundering Herd, which the university resided in Huntington, West Virginia. And in 1970, a plane crash basically took the lives of pretty much the entire football team, along with staff members and some boosters. It was an absolute tragedy. And this tells the story of their coach, Jack Lengyel, I guess. Lengyel, that sounds right. Who's played by Matthew McConaughey. And he comes on the scene in March 1971 and helps rebuild the team and kind of helps the university heal and helps the community heal. And it's I have actually seen this film. And it maybe falls a little bit short in that it's a little too Hollywood at times. Scored a 48 on the tomato meter, but 79% on the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. So more of a fan favorite than a critic's favorite. But again, it is both a tragic story and a story of triumph at the same time. And if you haven't seen it, I can actually recommend this one. It's a pretty good movie.
Yeah. So, there you go. Number 7, We Are Marshall. Harry, why don't you bring us to number 6B?
6B is The Blind Side, which is based on the life of and the book and the story of Michael Orr, who went on to become an offensive lineman for the Baltimore Ravens. And it's basically about an impoverished young man who loses his family, comes from extreme poverty, and is adopted by the Tuohys. It's Leanne Toohey being played by none other than Sandra Bullock. The ups and downs of his young career, but ultimately leading to him making it all the way to college and then to the NFL. And I thought this was a pretty good film. It's very Hollywood. Obviously, there's a little bit of a kind of racial controversy and stereotype with the white savior narrative, of the African-American male who's unable to overcome the difficulties of poverty without the help of his, white mother. Look, this actually did happen in real life. So
right.
I thought it was
true stories.
Yeah. And
liberties were taken, but it's a,
and I actually thought it was, fairly good telling of it, albeit with enhancements to make it people go to see the film. And it was actually a pretty popular film, and it won. It did fairly well. And I think it did really well. With rentals and being released afterwards from the theater. But
did it win an Oscar? I thought it did win an Oscar.
I don't know.
Let's see.
I don't think so. She won a Academy. She did win
Oscar winner performance by. She won. She won.
So the movie didn't. Yeah, she won.
Yeah,
she won. So
couple and a Golden Globe and a Screen Actors Award, and I mean, I don't know. It was the first movie in a while where Sandra Bullock wasn't driving a bus, so I guess it's okay. Michael Orr was a pretty good player. Won a Super Bowl, and I remember somebody gave me this movie on DVD one year, and I actually thought it was a pretty good film.
I thought it
made $309 million at the box office.
Yeah.
So I guess that's pretty successful.
It is very.
There were enough moments in it that if you're flipping through the channels and it comes on, there's a few points that you'll kind of watch for a while because you want to see this particular moment or that particular scene.
Sure.
I thought it was a pretty good movie.
I think it's a great movie, and then a couple points about it too. This is the second instance of where LT is involved in a movie because she talks about in the beginning of the movie and the end, the blind side, obviously, of the offensive line and the quarterback, or at least the right-handed quarterbacks. Blind sides from the left, and
that's why the left tackle is
the most.
They say is the most important position on the offensive line,
except for the Giants. But
it's important. They just
important. They just don't
They keep trying. They just
not to them, maybe.
To them, right? Yeah. So, but yeah, and it's partly and mainly, obviously, and they talk about it in the beginning of the movie because of Lawrence Taylor and specifically what he did with Joe Theismann back in 1985. So yeah, that's the
other connection to the Water Boy, of course, is Kathy Bates.
Kathy Bates is in the movie as well. Yes.
And if we're gonna go over there's some brief appearances by Lou Holtz and Nick Saban.
That's right.
And some other coach with the initials TT, who I'd rather not talk about.
But in any event, a couple other things about the movie. The daughter. Her first name is Collins Toohey. The actress that played her is Lily Collins. So her last name in real life is her first name in the movie. And the reason I say it and I bring it up isn't just because of that stupid little coincidence, because it's actually Phil Collins' daughter.
Yes.
From Genesis. Phil Collins' daughter played Collins Toohey in the movie. So I thought it was a little interesting fact. And actually Michael Orr, the actual real Michael Orr, wasn't actually happy with the movie.
No.
I remember reading that.
He didn't like it, yeah. So,
yes. Lily Collins read all of her lines in 7/8 time signature, so it was really good.
She was, and you could hear her breaking into In the Air Tonight at one point in the show. So, but anyway,
they had her on a muted gate
exactly.
for all of her vocals.
That's right, gated reverb. Yeah,
gated reverb. That's it. I knew it had to get the word gated.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Well, there you go, folks. 6B, The Blind Side. I'll take 6A. 6A would be Draft Day. Draft Day is a 2014 movie. It's an American sports drama filmed by Ivan Reitman and starring none other than Mr. Kevin Costner. There's the movie right there. The plot is on the morning of the 2014 NFL Draft. This whole entire movie takes place in one day. It starts in the morning and finishes at night. The entire movie's one day. 2014 NFL Draft. Cleveland Browns general manager Sonny Weaver Jr., played by Kevin Costner, must decide how to use the 7th overall pick to improve the team, but he has other problems on his mind. His semi-secret girlfriend, Allie Parker, played by Jennifer Garner, is the team's salary cap analyst, is pregnant, and the recent death of his father causes tensions with his mother. Sonny has fired his father, a legendary coach for the Browns, who later admits was for his mother's sake because his father refused to retire even with failing health. And he winds up trading picks and getting them back and moving things around. And it's a pretty interesting movie. Again, as Harry referred to some of these movies before, Hollywood, sure. And what movies aren't really going to be Hollywood when they're made in Hollywood, right? But it's actually pretty interesting. It's there you go. It's pretty fast moving, and it doesn't really have any slow parts.
It's a good film.
I thought it was a good film. I thought it was a very good film. I thought it was well made. I thought it was interesting, and the fact that it takes place in one day and it's chronological of the goings on in that day and what they were actually able to achieve at that day in the draft. It was pretty cool. It's a good movie, I think.
Instead of watching the Zapruder film, he's watching highlights of game day film.
Right.
If I ever want to watch a football movie with Kevin Costner, that'll be the one.
There you go.
No Kathy Bates though, or Rob Schneider.
No Kathy. Rob Schneider actually.
Well, that's why it didn't win any awards. No,
he read for the lead, but
he did.
Costner beat him out. So.
That's right.
There you go. Number 6A, Draft Day.
The Draftinator.
The Draftinator. Well, there you go.
He went off script, and that's why he lost the part.
Just a little bit. All right, so there you go. All right, Pete, why don't you bring us to number 5?
Number 5, or number 22, which is I think this is a good movie, and I enjoy it very much. And there were a lot of people who panned it, but they're just Tom Cruise haters. It's Jerry Maguire, written and directed by Cameron Crowe, who basically followed Leigh Steinberg around for, I think, about a year and a half, and then wrote and then directed this movie about Jerry Maguire, the agent, and his trials and tribulations. He leaves a big agency, and Renee Zellweger plays an office assistant, I think, who decides to go with him, and they have a relationship, and he ends up with just one client,
Rod Tidwell.
Rod Tidwell, played by Cuba Gooding Jr. And to me, this is a very entertaining movie. Tom Cruise has a lot of things that you could say are kind of icky about him or whatever, but
right.
I find him very enjoyable in any number of films, and kind of equally unenjoyable in any number of other films. But to me, Jerry Maguire is a funny movie. There's some touching moments. It is really Hollywood when you get down to the end.
It's all Hollywood, yeah.
It's just really, but you're kind of expecting that, or at least I was. And so it didn't bother me. Like, I was happy that everything turned out okay. And that was, I think, part of the genius of Cameron Crowe is he took these sort of cookie cutter Hollywood characters and made you root for them. And you know, if you've never seen Jerry Maguire, you're missing out.
Yeah, give it a watch.
Jerry Maguire, the year of will Cuba Gooding Jr. please go away?
Yeah,
and he did.
Yeah. He was Michael Caine there for a couple of years.
How dare you? He's no Michael Caine. No.
Well, I mean, it's just in the fact that he was in every movie.
Michael Caine was not on every People magazine cover. Though.
This is true. And of course, don't forget, show me the money.
Yeah, one of the most annoying lines in the history of the movie.
That and Who Let the Dogs Out back around the same time.
That's right.
It was crazy there. So
yeah, I think the soundtrack wasn't by the Baha Men. Was it?
It was not by the Baha Men.
Okay.
It was not, no.
It was by Boys to Men.
Yeah, 6-1. But there you go, Jerry Maguire, number 5. All right, Harry, bring us to number 4, please.
Number 4 is Friday Night Lights, which is a film that follows the coach and players of a high school football team in Odessa, which, if you know about high school football in Texas, then I think this film, which obviously the TV show was based on, certainly addresses. This is really, I think, the star of this is really how they captured that state's obsession, especially these small towns, with their high school football and how big it is a part of their life. It was based on a book, Friday Night Lights, A Town, a Team, and a Dream. The movie came out in 2004. The book was written in 1990. And Billy Bob Thornton is actually really good. It's, it's a second movie it's second in line of movies where he plays a coach. I think he was great in The Bad News Bears. But, if you know the TV, this is much more of a movie, but it's really about how these players and coaches are put on such a pedestal at such a young age, and how they kind of struggle sometimes to live beyond that at post football at the age of 18 years old. And, I thought it was a pretty good film. A couple NFL, Ty Law makes a cameo, Keep Talib, Roy Williams, good film. And I thought the action shots in this were pretty good. And, I like the fact that it talks about high school football in a pretty realistic way. I mean, it's a slicker movie, but it's almost, Peter Berg directed it, and I wouldn't say he's really a Hollywood with a capital H kind of director. This is almost like an indie film about football. It's not bad.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Enjoy it. There's so many people that watch the TV show now.
Yeah, I've never seen the TV show, but I know it's enormous. Is it still on?
It's on Netflix. I don't think there's any more seasons of it. I think it's done, but anybody can binge watch it if you will on that. But the movies, it's almost it's the same thing, but it's not. So
I've never seen the TV series, but the movie is pretty spectacular.
Yeah. So there you go, number 4, Friday Night Lights,
and it's got a guy named Booby in it.
Booby,
Booby.
And I got to tell you, to me, that scene where he cleans out his locker, spoiler alert, and he gets back in the car with, I guess it's his uncle, or I don't know if it's his dad or uncle, whatever, and his knee is screwed up, and he just breaks down crying, and he says, "What am I going to do if I can't play football?" To me, that's just one of the most heartbreaking scenes.
Sure.
In the movies, I see that, and you just. Again, it's a film and it's a character and it's acting, but to me that always kind of struck home. And
It's similar to what was the movie where Dennis Quaid plays a quarterback who
Everybody's All American.
Yeah, I like that film. I thought that was a good one too. Mm-hmm. Anyway,
so it's just, I don't know. It's just it's a good movie, and that's one of those things where you'll be flipping through, you'll put it on, you go, oh, I'm just going to watch until
this part,
scene, and then you kind of get caught up in it,
and then you watch at the end anyway, of course.
Exactly.
So, there you go. Number 4, Friday Night Lights. I'll take number 3. Number 3 is The Replacements. The Replacements. It's a 2000 movie about a fictional team in a fictional league. I believe I don't know if they actually ever say the name of the league. It's not the NFL or anything, but a fictional pro football league is hit with a player strike with 4 games left in the season. The Washington Sentinels owner Edward O'Neill calls on former coach of his, Jimmy McGinty, and asks him to coach the Sentinels' replacement players for the rest of the season, adding that winning 3 of the last 4 games will get the Sentinels into the playoffs. McGinty accepts on the condition that he can sign the players he wants without O'Neill's interference. And he begins to pick apart these misfits and so forth and so on. And, of course, there's Keanu Reeves right there wearing the number 16 jersey of Shane Falco. And I'll just take that off, and that's what I'm wearing right now. So that's my jersey for the evening, is the Falco jersey from the Washington Sentinels. I don't have a Sentinels hat. That's why I'm wearing the Bills hat, because it matched. And the Bills are playing in the playoffs this week, so there you go. Anyway, it's the players they bring in. I mean, they got Gene Hackman's in it, obviously, with Keanu Reeves. Jack Warden plays Ed O'Neill, not the actor, the owner of the Sentinels. And ironically enough, we were talking about Heaven Can Wait before. Jack Warden was actually in Heaven Can Wait too.
Yeah, that's right, he was.
And also Phil Collins' daughter.
No, Phil Collins was in that movie, actually, I believe. But Jon Favreau's in this as well. How
did this make it to number 3? Did you have it as number 1, John?
No, I did not have it as number 1. It kind of, I think it made it by a point out of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 were all like a point away from each other.
Okay.
I
only have it on my list because of Brooke Langton.
Brooke Langton.
I think the coach's daughter.
No, she plays
the cheerleader. But I thought she had some relation to the owner of the team.
No, she ran her father's bar, and he was a big Sentinels fan.
You had it as number 1.
I did have it as number 1.
Yeah, and Pete had it as number 6.
Oh, there you go.
Because I didn't have it at all, and I was just wondering how it made it.
It's one of those movies. It's one of those movies that I always put on. Like that, not always put on, but anytime it's on.
It only made the list for me because of her.
Yeah, so it's and also she has the cheerleaders. And I found this really odd too. Obviously, she ran the cheerleaders, but I guess the cheerleaders went on strike too, so they had to get replacement cheerleaders.
Sure.
I always wondered that one, but so they wound up getting strippers as the replacement cheerleaders.
You'd be surprised how often that happens.
Why the hell not? So there you go.
Yeah, usually it's the other way around. Usually, ex-cheerleaders become strippers. But yeah.
Oh, and by the way, she's also in the Friday Night Lights TV series.
She is. Yeah, she's in the Friday Night Lights TV series.
Who is she?
Brooke Langton.
Brooke Langton. Yeah.
I remember her from Melrose Place.
Yeah.
And was happy to see her in the Replacements.
Yes, she filled in for Slim Dunlap on their last tour.
She filled in for LeBron James too in one of the playoff games a few years ago. So.
Well, yeah.
But she's a jack of all trades. She
put
really
up 35 that night, as I recall.
She did 35, yeah, and had a bunch of boards too.
35, 17, and 6, I believe it was.
So. In any event,
pretty good number for an actress from Melrose Place.
I tell you, but yeah, no, it's just a fun movie. There's nothing, and one of the best parts about this movie is that John Madden and Pat Summerall are in a lot of scenes. They're announcing every single Sentinels game, and it's just great seeing them and hearing them talk, and then John Madden doing his typical Madden stuff with his circling and showing what you're going to get when a certain plays happen. It's just a fun movie.
And Shane Falco.
Shane Falco.
One of the great movie names.
Number 16 in your programs, number 1 in your hearts.
One of the great movie names. Shane Falco. That guy could be a private eye. He could be a jet fighter pilot. Mm-hmm. He could be a replacement football player. He could do anything.
He can do anything.
Shane Falco.
There you go. Number 3, the replacements. All right. Who's up? Pete, bring us to number 2B, please.
Number 2B, also known as 27. And that is Remember the Titans from the year 2000. Also based on a true story, however, fairly loosely on a true story, according to people who were there and who are in the know. And this is about T.C. Williams High School in Alexandria, Virginia, facing a crisis as they are forced to integrate an all-black school and an all-white school. Pretty good movie. Denzel Washington. To me, one of the most interesting things, let me pull up the cast here, about this movie is some of the names that are in it, particularly guys on the team who are just kids in this movie, like Ryan Gosling, Ethan Suplee, who might not be a name that you know, but
he did. I think he was in our top kickers last week, wasn't he?
He might be. He could have been. Donald Faison in this flick as well, and
from Scrubs, right?
Yeah, from Scrubs. That's exactly right. And Hayden Panettiere, plays the young daughter and would go on to fame. Really, actually, Heroes is where she made her bones, and she does some show about being a country singer or something. I forget what that's called. Yeah, my wife watches it. But just a lot of faces that you see now, and you go, oh yeah, wow, that guy. And it was it was 21 years ago. Pretty good flick. Not too much Hollywood. Again, they did take license with what actually happened there, but it did deal with a something of a controversial topic, certainly at the time when it happened.
Nashville, by the way.
Nashville, yeah, thank you. That's the name of the show. Remember the Titans. Pretty good. It
was number 2B, Remember the Titans. I'm going to take number 2A. Number 2A is going to be Any Given Sunday.
On any given Sunday.
On any given Sunday. There you go. This was a 1999 movie by Oliver Stone, directed by Oliver Stone, depicting a fictional professional American football team. The Miami Sharks, a once great American football team, are struggling to make the 1999 Associated Football Franchises of America, the AFFA, playoffs. They are coached by a 30-year veteran, Tony D'Amato, played by Al Pacino, who has fallen out of favor with young team owner Christina Pagliacci, played by Cameron Diaz, and offensive coordinator and D'Amato's expected successor, Nick Crozier, played by Aaron Eckert. The 13th game of the season, both starting quarterback Johnny Cap Rooney, played by who, Harry? Who's Johnny Cap Rooney?
I don't know. Who is Johnny Cap Rooney?
That would be Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid. There you go.
Another football movie with Mr. Dennis Quaid. There you go. And second string quarterback, Tyler Cherubini, played by Pat O'Hara, are both injured and forced to leave the field. The desperate Sharks called upon third string quarterback Willie Beeman, played by Jamie Foxx, to replace him. Anyway, I could go on and on. The plot is long. It's a very long movie. It's a very good movie, however. It's an ensemble cast, like I said: Al Pacino, Cameron Diaz, Dennis Quaid, Jamie Foxx, James Woods, LL Cool J,
and Matthew Modine,
Anne Margaret, Lauren Holly, Matthew Modine, John C. McGinley, Charlton Heston, Bill Bellamy, Elizabeth Berkley, Aaron Eckert, Marty Wright, Leela Roshan, and Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor plays Shark LaVey.
No Kathy Bates.
No Kathy Bates in this one, though. It goes through a lot of different things, and there's a lot of game time action in it. It's not. It's a very well different directed type of a movie. I guess more or less Hollywood, depending on how you look at Hollywood. So, but
It's a good film with some classic lines.
Yeah, absolutely.
And despite Jamie Foxx being in it, it's still a good film.
Well, there you go. That's our number 2A, Any Given Sunday. Harry, bring us to number 1B, please.
Number 1B is a 1971 ABC Movie of the Week. That's right, a television film.
Television movie.
Called Brian's Song, which details the life of Brian Piccolo, played by none other than Mr. Jimmy Kahn, and a Chicago Bears football player who is stricken with terminal cancer, and his friendship with Bears teammate Gale Sayers, played by none other than Mr. Billy D. Williams. Look, I'm not going to go too much into it. I think most people who are at least, maybe 35 and older probably know of this movie. They call it one of the top films on the guy cry list. Like, it's okay if you cry during Brian's Song.
Right.
It's a sad film, obviously. I remember seeing it as a kid and thinking, wow, I couldn't articulate what it was about it, but I just thought, wow, this is really good. And while it kind of walks the line of, being obviously something made for television, and I think it does a pretty good job of telling the story. I think it's obviously incredibly well acted, and it's always on the list of top sports movies ever made, and it's why it's so high on our list. If you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend it.
Highly recommended. There you go. Number 1B, Brian's Song. Pete, why don't you bring us to number 1A?
Number 1A.
At the top of our list right here.
Nearly the top of the... Oh, it is the top of the list. All right.
We're almost done. There you
go. Well, I thought we might have a number 1A.5, but
right.
No, this is... listen, hard to think of a better one. It's The Longest Yard, not the Sandler remake.
No.
Nope. It's the 1974 original,
which isn't bad. The Sandler remake, but it's like
it doesn't hold a candle.
It would be the equivalent of like the Spice Girls trying to redo Quadrophenia. It would be interesting.
That's pretty spot on analogy on that one right there.
Right.
That's. Ooh, that's just now. Thank you for putting that image in my mind. Yeah. All right. Well, look, it's the story of a former pro football quarterback, Paul Wrecking Crew, who takes his girlfriend's Maserati for a joyride and gets in a chase with the cops and goes to jail, where he puts together a football team and with the help of some crafty inmates and caretakers, and they take on the guards, and hilarity ensues. It's just a great movie about the underdog and sticking it to the man even though you're in jail, and absolute great cast. Burt Reynolds, of course, stars as Paul Crew. You got Eddie Albert in there. You got Bernadette Peters in this movie. You got Richard Kiel, who played Jaws in the Bond films, and a couple of you got Bogdansky. Anybody remember who Bogdansky was played by? Ray Nitschke.
Ray Nitschke.
Ray Nitschke is Bogdansky. Joe Kapp as the walking boss.
Ray Nitschke didn't play Bogdansky. Bogdansky played Ray Nitschke.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, you could say that. That's fair. So, and listen, there's comedy in it. There's some tragedy in it. There's one of the guys who dies. But ultimately, the good guys win, even though they're all incarcerated. And a great ending at the game where Paul Crew almost bites the bullet in a very literal way.
Yep.
And a bit of a twist at the ending there. It's a great film all around. And it'll make you laugh, and it'll make you feel sad, and it'll make you think about not taking your rich girlfriend's Maserati for a joyride.
You might want to think twice before you do that again.
Yeah, maybe 3 times before you.
Maybe 3, yeah. So, and
a genuinely good acting job by Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, Burt Reynolds did a good job in this movie. I like this one. I mean, if I have to watch this one or the Adam Sandler remake, I'm watching this one, obviously. But oddly enough, the Adam Sandler remake. Burt Reynolds was in it, and obviously did not play Paul Crewe. Obviously, Adam Sandler played Paul Crewe, but he played Coach Nate Scarborough, and then went in a play at the end, which is pretty funny. But similar. I mean, it's the same. It was a remake, Mean Machine, the whole 9 yards. But yeah, the '74 movie. It's a classic. It's definitely in the right place on this list.
Yeah,
so.
The remake kind of more of a tribute than a redo of the original
than
film.
An actual redo. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And it was good. I mean, the new one is good, but it's nothing like, you just can't beat the original.
No, you can't.
Which is why it's number one.
Which is why it's number one on this list. Number 1A, but number one on the list.
It's number one. What was it? Did we have 2 tied for number one?
Well, Brian's song was tied for number one.
Okay, gotcha.
So there you go. Couple things to point out on this list, though. You mentioned before The Blind Side grossed $309 million. That was the on this list of all 15 of these movies. That movie made the most money. It actually netted $280 million. Number one. Can you guess what the number? Unless you looked at the stats, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Can you guess what the number 2 highest grossing movie on this list would be?
I would say Any Given Sunday or Necessary Roughness.
I'd say Friday Night Lights.
You're both wrong. Jerry Maguire.
Oh, I forgot about Jerry Maguire.
Jerry Maguire made
200. Trying to run through the 29 films to figure out which one had the
29, right? Made $273 million and netted $223 million. And the number 3 movie on this list, the number 3 grossing movie on this list. Remember, you got Friday Night Lights, you got Remember the Titans, you got Any Given Sunday, We Are Marshall, Draft Day.
How about Undisputed?
Undefeated, yeah.
Undefeated,
yeah.
I'm only guessing that because it was a documentary. Probably didn't cost that much to make.
Nope. The Waterboy.
Yeah,
The Waterboy.
That makes sense. I mean, those are the most high. Those are the films that were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Waterboy made.
I mean, it's Jerry Maguire's kind of a football film, but
it's
okay.
Well, it's a football film, I mean, there's
it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So, well, there you go. That is our top 10 list.
I'll be honest with you. I had more. I was a lot easier picking these than it was top 10 kickers. Just
Wait till we do top 10 kicker movies.
I know it's going to be number 1.
Well, yeah.
And I know it's going to be number 2.
I know it's going to be number 1. We might be talking about it in the next couple of seconds.
Well, why don't we just get right into old balls?
How do you pick on old balls for football movies? Well, it's very easy. You go through all the football movies, you pick the most ridiculous one ever, and you pick the balls of a mule. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Our old balls for this week is Gus, a 1976 American family comedy by the Walt Disney Company, which, quite honestly, it stars a Yugoslavian mule.
That's not the mule.
Which they find out can kick field goals. Yes, kick a soccer ball. So they've realized, the plot of the film really is based around an inept team owned by Ed Asner, played his character Hank Cooper, and the inept coach Venner, played by none other than Mr. Furley himself, Don Knotts.
There you go.
So, I mean, you take a mule, Ed Asner and Don Knotts. You got me. I'm in. I'm all in. Look, they're horrible. They not only that, but Ed Asner owes a ton of gambling debt to 2 mobster bookmakers played by Harold Gould and Dick Van Patten. Yes, that Dick Van Patten from Family.
Yeah, always menacing.
Yes, always menacing. I can't imagine Dick Van Patten playing a mobster. But anyway,
that's 8 is enough. 8 is enough, Dick Van Patten, right?
Yes. Yeah. Desperate to draw fans, Cooper looks for a great halftime show. His secretary sees a story in her parents' Yugoslavian newspaper about Gus. Debbie, of course, flies to Yugoslavia and hires Gus and Andy. After Gus is a hit in the halftime show, they decide to put him in a game as a place kicker. The other teams protest, but the rule book does not require a player to be human. Long story short, after realizing that Cooper is backfiring, hires 2 incompetent criminals named Crankcase, yes, played by Tim Conway, and Spinner, played by Tom Bosley, to stop Gus from playing to make the team lose.
It's an all-star cast.
This is an all-star cast. Yeah. During the Super Bowl, before the Super Bowl, Gus is stolen. That's right. He is kidnapped and replaced with a impersonator mule, realizing
you can't make this stuff up.
This is where the plot really thickens.
This is really totally thickens. Realizing that this is not Gus, they fly in a helicopter looking for Gus, find him, and airlift him back to the game. With Gus in the game, the Adams make a comeback, and with 3 seconds left on the clock, the Adams are down 16-15 with the ball on their own 5-yard line. Now, Gus lines up for a field goal attempt, and if this was a typical Hollywood film, Gus would make the 105-yard field goal. But no, Gus slips, misses the football, and in a scramble for the ball, Gus knocks it over to Andy, yes, that same Andy from Yugoslavia, who runs 95 yards for the touchdown. And Andy and the team walk off the field to celebrate their win. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Gus, with a cast that I don't think can be beaten, of Ed Asner, Don Knotts, Tim Conway, Dick Van Patten, Bob Crane, Johnny Unitas as himself, Dick Butkus. Ladies and gentlemen, Dick Butkus was, I think, in the last couple films, actually.
Yeah.
Harold Gould, Tom Bosley, the list goes on and on. It is horrible. But
and a mule.
If you have you always Dick Enberg is in this.
Yes.
Yeah. Look, if you just put Don Knotts, Ed Asner, and a mule in anything, I'm going to watch it. And as a kid, it was fantastic. It's a dumb film. And
this is a film that they show prisoners when they want them to talk.
Yeah.
Put it on a big screen and put it on a loop, and they go, tell us where the secret planes are or whatever. We'll be back in 2 days. And they just let it run.
And to the best of my knowledge, Gus is the only donkey to ever play, or a mule to ever play in a fictional or professional sports game. So
there you go.
Look.
When you say a mule, Don Knotts, and Ed Asner,
yes,
to borrow a line from one of our other movies, you have me at a mule.
Yeah,
right.
You have me at a mule.
Yeah.
So there you go.
A Yugoslavian mule.
A Yugoslavian mule.
Yeah, which I'm not sure if it was which part of the ex-Yugoslavia it was from, but Andy shouts "oik" when the mule kicks out. I'm guessing maybe Serbian. I don't know.
There you go. Well, there you go. That is our old balls for this week. Old balls. Gus. Well, there you go.
Boy.
Wow. How's that?
A new low with that top 10 list.
Yeah, but it was fun. It was
fun.
It was fun. Come on.
It was.
All right. Well,
I'm just happy that our top 10 did not include a movie which I'm sure everybody would be in number one. I'm just glad that we're all so cynical that it didn't even come close.
Yeah. Yeah. I think. Are we all on the same page?
We're all on the same page.
Okay. Good.
There we go.
We don't even need to mention its name.
Don't need to mention the name.
Nope. Okay. Good.
No. All right. Well, let's
like to see Gus kick that kid through the upright.
Yeah.
All right.
Oink.
Ah! There's another Rudy I'd rather see the mule kick.
That's exactly right.
And I guess metaphorically, the mule did kick Rudy.
Metaphorically, yes,
the donkey kicked Rudy.
Yeah. Well, what is the difference between a donkey and a mule?
4 letters.
One's castrated. I don't know.
One's.
Well, it's a parentage, right?
Yeah, a donkey can be a parent to a mule. Can be a parent. Donkey can be a parent to a mule, or vice versa.
Like one is half horse and half zebra, and the other is
3/4 Italian. And
donkeys are descended from
Irish,
African wild ass.
Oh, Serbian actually, right? Serbian.
A mule, on the other hand, is a hybrid animal.
Okay, so a mule is a hybrid.
Mules are the offspring of
donkeys. A full-blooded jackass. Mule is a hybrid.
No, they're from donkeys are from the wild African ass, and mules are the offspring of female horses and male donkeys.
There you go.
So we should be calling. I always like these couples where the woman's about 2 feet taller than the man. I see them in a lot of hipster couples now. So we should be calling this offspring of Jen, whatever it's going to be now, mules.
So a mule has a donkey for a parent.
Mule has a donkey and a horse. Female horse and a male donkey.
So what's a male horse and a female donkey?
I don't know.
Not a mule?
A female horse and a male
I don't think maybe it can happen. For some, maybe they can't get pregnant. I don't know. Okay. Who knows?
We'll have to ask a veterinarian.
Yes.
Or a farmer.
Join us for next week when we
dive into
top 10 genetic differences.
Genetic differences between farm animals.
Can a horse fuck a donkey? And what?
Yes, but they can't have. Well, I'm just wondering if it's like if your mom is Jewish, you're Jewish, right? No matter what your dad is.
Right, of course.
So like, is a donkey is always a donkey, or a mule? But it's not. A mule always has a donkey for a dad. I
guess so. The show is taking a very interesting turn.
It's more confusing than having 15.
Why don't we? Mules are bigger than donkeys, which is why the mule could kick field goals, and the donkey might struggle a little bit. The donkey would be more of the holder, and the mule would be the kicker.
There we go. That's
so the donkey would be more of the it's in the eye of the ball holder.
Yeah, it's in the eye of the ass.
Yeah,
the ass.
All right. All right. Do we want to talk about any other sports? Because there's a couple things that might have happened.
I think we should, because there's actually a lot of crap going on that we haven't even gotten to in 2.5 hours. So,
football and movies.
Why don't we start with some Hot Stove?
We are thorough.
We are thorough for anything else. So, if you were paying attention to the podcast last week and not the normal episode on Wednesday night, but we did a special one on Thursday night.
Because 3 hours isn't enough.
Because 3 hours isn't enough. We had to announce, because everybody tunes into us for their breaking news. Francisco Lindor is a Met. He had a press conference on Monday morning they announced him. And he was quoted as saying he'll miss Cleveland, but he's excited to play for the Mets. And he didn't tip his hand, but he alluded to wanting a deal and be open to a deal. And, he mentioned that, it has to be right for both players, but he's always thinking about the future. So to me, it was tipping his hand. And I don't think that Steve Cohen's going to let him leave Queens without turning every stone to find a way to sign him to a long-term deal and basically have him retire Met for that matter. So we'll see what happens. But and if you Harry, you didn't join us on that Mets.
No,
podcast.
I was deep in research on kicking mule movies.
Mule movies, right? You were working on that list.
It's all about priorities.
Absolutely.
We were good. We were out in I think 24 minutes.
20 as a quick one, in and out, 24 minutes.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know if he's going to re-sign.
You don't know?
Well, listen, we talked about getting Bauer, and who apparently wants to really wants to come to the Mets, and maybe getting Springer. And if you have all three, that's a lot of payroll. And
it's also a lot of championships too.
Right, and right. But if you're going to sign Bauer and you're going to sign Springer, they're free agents. They're going to be long-term contracts.
Sure.
So maybe you might have all three for this year and then not keep Lindor because it might end up being just too much money. And, honestly, Lindor might be open to a deal, but if it's not a great deal, he might want to test the free agency next year. Wouldn't be the first guy to go to a team. Usually it's more of a short-term rental.
Of course.
Mid-season move.
Sure.
This is kind of a whole season move. But maybe assuming the fans are going to come back for the 2022 season, or at least some of them or whatever, and maybe the fact that there might be that at least some of that fan revenue might put more teams in the hunt for his services in a year from now. So maybe he's interested in signing a deal, but not desperate to sign a deal.
Right.
Who knows? It's an awful lot of payroll. Although I think with all three of those players, it's smart money.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. I don't think, and all of them, the Mets feel the same way as Lindor says. If there's not a deal done before spring training starts, then there's not a deal done until after the end of the season, whenever that may be. And hopefully for the Mets, it's November, right? Not October. So,
right.
But
that's what he has to say. He just got traded. If this offseason is any indication, then it's going to take some time to work these deals out.
Sure.
And look, I thought Springer was more. Obviously, the Mets I think they got their top priority in Lindor. I would say that Lindor is probably a slightly bigger grab than George Springer. There's a lot of babble going on, but that Springer might go to the Blue Jays.
Yeah. Well, he was that. I mean, that's the teams. It was between the Mets and the Blue Jays, and that's the teams going back and forth between. I mean, from what's been talked about. I mean, Anthony Recker and Andy Martino on SNY, both of them have said time and time again over the last several days that they don't think there's going to be any bigger additions to this club this year, other than bullpen depth. But you know what? Then you read other articles that don't count them out on Springer yet, because the Mets are still on Springer's wish list. Not Springer's still on the Mets wish list. Springer still wants to come to Queens. But it just depends. I mean, they only have maybe just shy of $30 million left before they hit that luxury tax amount. And if they are going to add, a couple of the pieces for the bullpen, like Brad Hand, who they've offered a contract to. They offered him a 1-year deal, and he's apparently looking for a multi-year deal. But they're working on it. But if they're going to get him, they're going to have to give him multi-years. It's not going to be a lot of money, so it's not going to eat too much about that. But
what, for Springer?
No. For Brad Hand. But that being the case, the money that Springer wants for the years he wants it's going to eat up a lot. It's going to push them over the luxury tax. They're going to have to either clear out some other cap room, and they're going to work something out with Cano. He's going to come off. And
then, like I said, they might be willing to eat it for this season, but
right.
And the other thing I'm reading now is their Springer. Not that this is the deciding factor necessarily, but one of the factors they're thinking about is whether or not they're going to have a DH.
Yeah, that's still.
They're going to have a DH. Settled, They might be more willing to bring Springer in because it's going to give them some play, a couple other guys on the team that they can get their bats in the lineup as a DH.
Sure.
If there's no DH, then maybe they don't want to go that much over. I mean, assuming Bauer's going to come to the Mets, right? Because it would be a huge. I think you got a guy who wants to come that badly,
right?
Who's
well, I'll tell you,
that he has, you bring him in.
If they somehow get Trevor Bauer to come to the Mets, and they have DeGrom, Bauer, Carrasco.
If Carrasco returns to form, you've got Stroman, and you got Thor coming back midseason.
Syndergaard when he's coming back, and you still got Peterson and Matz hanging there that can pick up slack out of the bullpen.
Odorizzi.
Yeah, Jake Odorizzi.
Yeah.
You know what? And somebody
look. Can you ever have too much pitching? No.
You can never have too much pitching.
That is the best problem that you can ever have. Is more pitching than you think you need.
And Peterson, he might be in your.
Peterson's in the mix. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There was a where was it? I'm trying to get back to it. Somebody posted on one of the Mets blogs. Here we go. He said. He says he proposes a trade, trading alleged Mets fans who want to trade Alonso after an off-season in quotes, compromised of all of 60 games, to Cleveland for a slightly used picture of Willie Mays Hayes, Roger Dorn, and the used jockstrap of Pedro Serrano's Guru, Jobu, and a Chico Escuela to be named later. That was his post. So. Nice. Basically, bringing that up, I just
more obscure references.
It had to be an obscure reference. I read that earlier, and I said I had to read that. That's basically saying that there's so many guys out there right now that are saying, "Hey, you know what? We can get a lot for Pete Alonso." Really? It was Rookie of the Year 2 years ago, and last year doesn't really count. Well, he still would have been on pace to hit 40 home runs last year.
It depends on who you get. It depends. I mean, if the Mets do land Bauer. And Syndergaard comes back, I think the Mets have a really good starting lineup. I think their bullpen's a little questionable.
Right.
Maybe,
it is, and that's why you
maybe
Brad
a lot questionable. So, I know it's blasphemy to Mets fans, but if you can, if trading Pete Alonso means that you can get what you need in the bullpen and maybe add a middle reliever, and are the Mets really set on a closer? Not really.
I think everybody's hoping that what Jeremy Hefner was able to do last year, bringing Edwin Diaz back around to a somewhat form, and not have him be that game blower as opposed to game closer.
I mean, if
you were proposing a trade to the Yankees, straight up Pete Alonso for Chapman. I don't know that would happen. Was that what you're doing?
No, but I'd take it.
You'd love that.
We don't need that's one thing we don't need is a first baseman.
First baseman, right? Exactly.
We need pitchers.
I think Pete Alonso would be your steady DH, but then again, you have 3 of those as well, too. So.
Yeah, we have 9 first basemen, 6 DHs, and 27 outfielders.
We have more. Just what the Yankees need.
Yeah, another big stiff at first base. But no, I think the Mets are looking at. I think that if the Mets sign Springer, it might be a sign that Lindor isn't there for the long term. This could be, that because Springer will have to be there for a longer term, and this could be, hey, we're in it right now for this year.
For now,
to win this.
Yeah, of those 3 guys, there's Bauer, Springer, and Lindor. There's 2 that are going to have long-term contracts if they come to the Mets.
If they come, they're going to have. Yeah, they're not coming. They're not. None of them are coming. Neither of them are coming for a year.
Well, let me ask. That's
going to make Lindor financially, at least, expendable.
Let me ask the Met fans: if you had to pick between Bauer or Springer, who would you take?
You know what? I mean, you can't you can't. Like we just said, you can't have enough pitching. Yeah, I mean, you need 16 starting pitchers these days, But I'll be honest with you, I think we need a true center fielder, defensive and offensive, and everything that means, more than we need another arm to start. As long as we can get a couple of other decent pieces for the bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, Syndergaard coming back is really the key. I think you have maybe. I don't know. I would argue he could maybe be the best pitcher in baseball in DeGrom.
Sure.
Pete, what do you think?
I'm going to go the other way, though.
You think you take Bauer?
I'll say you bring Bauer in because you can never have too much pitching. You're replacing Springer's offense with Lindor.
Sure, absolutely.
So, and you've upgraded at a position that traditionally gives you very little offensively. So you've sort of replaced that offense that you get from Springer. And you bring in Bauer, and you put yourself a speedy, defensive-minded center fielder out there. And if he doesn't hit, then all he's got to do is hit as well as Ahmed Rosario, right? Who was getting a majority of your starts, or maybe somewhere between Rosario and Jimenez. And then you've replaced that offense with your center fielder. So he can be a fairly light-hitting center fielder who brings some speed, steals some bases, maybe cause a little havoc.
Jackie Bradley Jr.'s name has been floated around several times.
I mean, that's Mickey Rivers. Yeah.
If I had to choose 2 out of the 3, and since they've already got Lindor, I would bring in Bauer.
I would normally
an adequate hitting, good defensive center fielder.
Yeah, put a guy out there that
doesn't cost anything. Yeah.
Who doesn't cost that much, or
so
anywhere near as much as Springer.
Yep. Yeah. I would normally agree with you. Here's the one thing regarding the pitching, and I am sold on Bauer, although Bauer doesn't have as much of a track record. He could be one of those guys who has his moment and then doesn't live up to what he's done. Here's the one thing I think about George Springer is that he is arguably the most clutch performing postseason player in baseball since David Ortiz. Right. I mean, Altuve's been good, but when the Astros were really in a hole, and they always were, he was always in the mix. He really has had some amazingly clutch hits. And I really like George Springer, and I think he's got some longevity left on him, although, what is he, 31?
31, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got a couple good years in him. It's a tough call. I mean, you're going to be paying Springer some big bucks, and
you're going to be paying Bauer big bucks.
You're going to be paying Bauer big bucks.
Sure.
And I tend to agree more with the everyday player theory. Bring a guy who's going to be out there for 100.
But not in today's baseball, and especially look, if they do play a full season, you're going to have a bunch of guys who have not played or pitched or had as many reps in a full season for 2 years.
Right.
And I think that's why pitching is going to become more and more important. And so I would tend to lean towards Bauer, but Springer is just one of those guys that I think if you can get him,
Yeah, he's a game changer. I'd love to see all three of them on the team for this year.
You arguably have two of the top 5 players, top 10 players, certainly in baseball, if you can land Springer. And I think if you throw in pitchers, I think you do have. I mean, you have that. So I mean, the Mets are looking pretty good. Again, it's really just about how do they gel and who is that unknown entity that comes up and starts performing that you didn't expect them to perform. Does Alonso come back and have a decent year?
Right.
What I liked about
with a full spring training, because Manfred did announce the other day that all teams should be prepared to start spring training on time and be prepared for a 162 game season.
Right.
Yeah.
So. And to your point,
so they're almost all vaccinated.
So
that's basically what that means.
And to your point, Harry, with the two of the top 10 players in baseball, as far as the top 10 catchers, MLB reported yesterday they gave their list out who are the top 10 catchers that they felt in baseball, and look who number 10 is right there. James McCann actually made the top 10 MLB Network's top 10 catchers right now in Major League.
Yeah, I think that was a good addition.
So, sure. I mean, look, and the number one catcher on their list right now has no team next to him. He's a free agent. That's great.
Yeah.
Where's he going to go? He's another guy that people are just hesitant to kind of give the big money to.
Sure.
Well, I mean,
that's just a complete waiting game. That's all.
Who is the big free agent signing that's happened this year?
Well, I think it's Lindor.
Well, he's a trade.
That's a trade.
Yeah, like who's the superstar that's gotten the big bucks?
Nobody yet.
The biggest free agent signing to date right now this offseason has been James McCann.
Yeah.
Maybe not even. I was going to say
everybody's playing chicken. They're hedging their bets. Nobody wants to go first.
If we're a regular year, would be a month from pitchers and catchers, right?
We're a month from pitchers and catchers right now. Yeah.
And
assuming from what Manfred said, we are a month from pitchers.
Nobody's showing their cards. Nobody wants to be the first person to give Springer or LeMahieu or any of these guys what they're asking for. And I'm not sure they're going to get it. So
because of the revenue and because of everybody's down years and the money that was lost across the board on every team last year, the Mets are the only team in the unique place of being where they are right now because of
spending money.
Spending money, right? Yeah, because
if you're going to spend that money, you better be in contention.
I mean, right now the boroughs are spending way more money than Manhattan. There's a lot more money being spent in Queens and Brooklyn than there is in Manhattan right now. So it's or the Bronx. Yeah, it's the Mets. The Mets. They're committed. They're going to throw the money at it.
Yeah,
and whether or not it works or not, time will tell. But I think. Look, I mean, if there's some way that they can pull off Springer and Bauer, which is unlikely, but if they do, then I mean,
they got to be the hands down.
They've got to be the favorites.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. If you're willing to go over the cap and you win it this year, then I mean, then you can justify letting Lindor go.
Which is why I don't understand where the Yankees are at right now. I mean, not to change it from the Mets to the Yankees and rain on the
change
Mets,
it. I was just going to go there too. I was just going to say that as far as the Lindor thing, just to wrap the Mets up, Salicata from SNY said the other day to Mets fans out there, just basically made a blanket statement out there. Relax, this ownership will get a deal extension done with Lindor. Have optimism, sleep easy. It'll get done. That's what he was saying. He completely believes that. Salicata?
Yeah.
He's on SNY. That's good. He's on SNY. He's on WFAN. He's a talk. He
slept with his Met jersey on.
He's a talking head pundit in New York.
It sounds like somebody on The Sopranos mispronouncing it.
Salicata.
Pass me the Salicata in the gabagool.
There you go. Anyway, so Yankees, yes, DJ LeMahieu. He's not happy. He's not happy with Brian Cashman and the Yankees right now.
Well, nobody's playing their cards. That's what we were talking about. And here's my question with the Yankees is that I don't think they have years and years and years to just in today's sports, these guys, you got Garrett Cole. You've committed to one. I mean, the Yankees really have one proven starter. Tanaka's probably not going to be there next year. Maybe he'll come back, but he's a number 2 or 3 at best.
Rumor is San Diego's looking.
Yeah. Why aren't the Yankees going after Bauer? Why are they so hung up all of a sudden on not spending money to win a title? And that's what I don't understand.
Lost too much last year.
You lost too much. Look, the work. What's killing the Yankees is, yes, they've lost too much last year, and they've made 2 or 3 signings which are crippling them. And I wish they could get out from under those deals, but they can't.
Well, who are the Yankees' American League nemesis?
Well, the Astros right now.
Okay.
Obviously, typically, Tampa Bay and the Red Sox will eventually be back. And look, if Toronto gets Springer, that puts Toronto right back there.
Sure.
Yeah. So for right now, it's Tampa Bay and
can Tampa Bay do? Tampa Bay last year reminded me of the Kansas City Chiefs from a number of years back, where they won the World Series and then they disappeared because they had all of this. They had all of this conglomeration of guys who gelled at the right time, and then they let some of them go, and they couldn't re-sign some of them. And
that's exactly what the Rays did. I mean,
and
they just let a bunch of them go. I mean,
it's not a formula that you can recreate.
Sure. No, and it was perfect for a shortened season. Now, I think the Rays were the best team in the American League, without a doubt.
Had to bring up the Royals winning the World Series, didn't you? You just had to do that, right?
Why? What's wrong with that?
Because they beat the Mets when they
won. Oh, that's right. They did. Yeah. And I think of the Royals.
Shots.
No, I forgot about that. I'm sorry.
Sure you did.
I really don't pay attention to the Mets. Is Lee Mazzilli coming back this year? Did they re-sign him?
This year he's coming back.
They owe him another ring.
That's right. I don't think the Yankees are just not going out and saying, okay, to LeMahieu, we're going to give you 4 years with an option for a 5th. We're going to give you 80% of what you want. We want you. We love what you've done the last 2 years. It should have been done already.
Yeah.
But it just seems like everybody's hedging their bets. And the Yankees have a lot of money in their lineup and not a lot of it produces. And I don't have comfort in this this bullpen that everybody had talked about. It didn't perform. And having Chapman closing out games has been he hasn't proven himself. He's lost a lot of big games.
Yeah.
And being Yankee fans, we've been spoiled for years and years and years with Rivera there, but we haven't had a great closer. And the pitching's just, it's not, we have one guy. And on any given playoff matchup, if he's going up against your number one, no guarantee that you're going to come across, win that. So it really comes down to who has the best 2 and 3s,
and it's not the Yankees.
And it's not the Yankees. And that's why, look, they were close last year. And arguably the year before, I really thought they were going to get past the Astros, but the Astros are kind of their nemesis.
Yeah.
And I'll be happy to see Springer leave the Astros. I just don't want him going to Boston or Toronto.
Yeah.
But I don't have as much confidence in the Yankees' decision making.
Right.
Yes, we know all about the homegrown talent, but even Judge, who I love and I think is a clutch player and plays above his stats, if that makes any sense, didn't have a great year.
And that's what I wanted to ask you is, do you worry about a guy like Judge eventually kind of just going, I don't know what his contract situation is, but he's still a young guy, and eventually just going, listen, the Yankees aren't being the Yankees and they're not helping me, and I'm going to go somewhere else.
I don't worry about Judge because I think Judge is so beloved and I think knows where he's at, that I think there's no way the Yankees, they'll do everything they possibly can unless he just really
I'm saying if he doesn't have confidence that he's ever going to win there.
I think he does. And I think that they're very close, but the time is now. We don't have – look, what the Yankees are a lot like the Jets and the Giants in a lot of ways, where they have these young guys that they're so invested in, and when the numbers don't pan out and they're not performing, they refuse to move on from them.
Right.
Yeah. And the Yankees are a prime example with that. Gary Sanchez, not the best catcher on the Yankees. Mike Ford, who we heard about for years, all of a sudden, finally, after so many injuries, Luke Voit gets to play. And Voigt's one of the best players. I think he's one of the best first basemen in the league right now. He's your first baseman. Right. Okay. Obviously, I want to see LeMahieu play second base. Gleyber Torres, he's naturally a second baseman, but I'm okay with him at shortstop. He hasn't really performed in the offseason. Again, at third base, you got Urshela and Andujar. Before Urshela was their starter, Andujar was performing really, really well. So can you trade Urshela to get something for him? Why are you holding on? I love Brett Gardner, but why are you holding on?
I don't think they have as much faith in Andujar as they should at this point.
You can't get rid of Gotti.
I would be okay with Andujar if they got something for Urshela. Yes, Aaron Hicks is an all-star. Right. Judge Tauchman, Clint Frazier needs to get in there. There are guys. The other guy that has been a bust is Stanton, and unless he can really produce this year, and it's really going to be in the playoffs, I just don't know where he goes. Happ, Paxton, they're just not the dominant pitchers that they were. They're too old. So they need pitching, and I think they have people who they could package and move to get that pitching. Because I think you need to give some of these other guys a chance. I think you need to give the Kyle Higoshias. I think you need to give the Andujars. If you have to get rid of Gleyber Torres, look, the Yankees got rid of Didi Gregorius. If they got rid of Didi, bring Didi back, play him at shortstop.
They got rid of Didi Gregorius a couple years before. They got rid of, it was in the Stanton trade. They got rid of Starlin Castro.
Right. And then they got rid of Cano, Robbie Cano, when he wanted the big money.
Right.
So
it's happened before.
I think they have to look at some of these guys who are in their prime and move them to get pitching, because they're not willing to sign the free agents that they need to sign. Yeah, they went out and they got Garrett Cole. That's great. They've never been able, since Pettit and Roger Clemens. They've never been able to have that 1-2 punch that was just dominant. And then back then they had El Duque and a bunch of, they just had, you could talk about the Yankees hitting. It was their pitching and defense that won it. And they have some young pitchers who I think could fill in the fourth and fifth role with Herman and Montgomery, and Zach Britton hasn't lived up to what you paid for him. So they have all of these kind of middle relievers and closers who aren't doing well, and you're still handing the ball to Aroldis Chapman at the end of the game, and he's getting, he's throwing a high fastball to what's his name on the Astros, and Chapman's Chapman's had the big. You have to remember, even when the Cubs finally won, Chapman blew it for them. Chapman didn't perform well as a Cub. I just don't know why they're holding on to some of these guys. I just don't get it. And it's not allowing them to sign the pitchers that they need.
Yeah. Well, we will see what happens as everything shakes out. It's going to be soon, because, if Manfred is right and pitchers and catchers are reporting in 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks, and everybody else shortly thereafter, the next few weeks are going to be a snowball. Unless it's a year where there's a bunch of people not playing and not reporting to spring training because they don't have a team. But we'll see what happens with that. The other thing we're going to mention really quick in Major League Baseball, yesterday, Liam Hendriks locked in a multi-year deal with the White Sox. So he's off the table now too. So if the Mets or anybody for that matter is looking for another bullpen arm, obviously cross off Hendricks. So
big loss.
There you go.
Oh, probably should also mention Tommy Lasorda died.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to do it at the end, but
yeah. Sorry.
That's all right.
I think what Pete's trying to say is, please make this the end.
Yeah. No. Can we?
We can't. We have something else big to talk about.
Yeah. Can we stop talking about a sport that hasn't started yet and talk about one that's actually going on?
Yeah, let's talk about this
hockey.
little hockey. This little thing that happened in Brooklyn today, while on the way to
the Nets beat the Knicks by 7.
Is that what happened tonight?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So that's
watch the game last night, Harry.
4 games
in Denver. Boy,
Denver, yeah.
That was a beauty. That was a thing of beauty.
4 games in a row. I think they've come back to earth at this point. The Knicks. Barrett.
Well, the Nets are playing without half their players right now. So
yeah, they are. And Kyrie's still MIA.
He's a cancer. He's a cancer.
It's ridiculous. But
it's funny when the Harden to the Nets talk of whatever a month ago or a few weeks ago was at its heaviest. I thought in my mind
the talk or Harden.
I was going to say because this is Harden right now.
Yeah.
So when Harden's at his heaviest, or
when that was heavy speculation.
You're still using that word, heavy.
Well, and I came out and I said, don't do it because you're going to have to give up a lot of the depth on the Nets, and that's a big part of what makes this team good. But I thought to myself, boy, if Houston makes a deal and doesn't want like Kyrie Irving, then you would think they were crazy.
Right.
They would want some. And I thought, well, maybe Kyrie and then either Dinwiddie or LeVert, but not both of them, and a couple other pieces, and maybe you could work something out. And maybe that would be the way to go. But then I changed my mind and said, no, let's see if Kyrie, he should be happy now. He's back in Brooklyn. He's playing with KD. They got they're amongst the favorites coming out of the East. But, and again, I don't want to get down on him because we don't really know what's going on, which is really the problem. Hopefully it's nothing serious. Mm-hmm. It's easy to call him selfish and, he's just Kyrie and he's flaking, and that's...
Well, apparently he was at a family party the other day.
Not masked and
and a lot of people. And
we don't look that the guy never seems truly happy, and I don't know. Maybe he needs some professional help. I don't know.
I think he does. I think
he might. Whatever it is, I don't want to talk ill about him, until we kind of know what it is. But that thought did enter my mind. We might be better off without him.
Right.
And,
but they were able to get Harden without trading him.
But they were able to get now that
involves 75 other teams.
Well, that might be insurance, just in case Kyrie doesn't come back.
I'll tell you what, though. Here, I think the Rockets. This is a lesson in how to get rid of a player who wants to and get something for it. Because look, yes, they didn't get Kyrie. I think they got a better player than Kyrie, quite honestly, in Victor Oladipo. Yeah. They got a couple other guys who could potentially be started, and they got four
first-round picks and four first-round pick swaps.
And 4 swaps, yeah.
That's 8 first-round picks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, depending on who does better, you would think the Knicks will probably do better than the Rockets.
Right.
And that's what the Rockets want with those swaps.
Right. Yeah. And, now you got John Wall and Victor Oladipo playing together, which is kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, we're going to see if somebody can play with John Wall. I'd be happy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. And I think Harden. I think Harden's got a lot to prove. I think Harden's a lot weirder than I think he's a weirdo. But he's obviously could put the ball in the basket, and we'll see. Him and Durant have obviously played together before.
Yeah,
they couldn't get it done with them and Westbrook. It's interesting.
He's out of the West now, right? So he doesn't have to deal with all that competition. They have played together before, and as I think I texted you guys, one thing about KD is he is willing to defer. He went to how many games did Golden State win? 71 or 72 before he got there, right? And you had Klay Thompson and Steph Curry and KD, and KD was willing to defer as long as we're winning games. He said, "I don't have to always be the number one guy," even though he was the number, the best player on the team.
I'll tell you what.
This might work. He might be willing to let Harden be Harden as long as they're winning. That's always what I'm saying.
Durant will definitely let Harden be Harden. For Harden to win a championship, Harden has to let KD be KD. Harden has to look at himself and say, I might be one of the top 3 players in the NBA, 5 players in the NBA, but the second best player in the NBA is on my team. And I got to make sure I got the ball in his hand with the game on the line.
Right. And
that's where I think Harden, I don't know where Harden's head is. He obviously he looks out of shape.
He does.
Yeah.
He could give 2 shits about the fucking Rockets. It was just like, here's a city I love, and they gave me a big contract, but I don't like it anymore. So I'm just, I'm not
better in Brooklyn.
He'll be happy if you win, and they should win.
I don't know.
And they should win.
Right.
If Kyrie comes back and actually, whatever was going on is done, and his mind's in the game, and he plays, as expected. There should be no reason why they're not right there with anybody else in the East.
If it's a pressure,
they're automatically the favorites in the East.
Of
if
course,
it's a pressure issue with Kyrie, then that has all been alleviated now.
Right.
He doesn't have to. He just has to bring the ball up and make the right pass now.
That's it.
And if that, who knows what's going on with that guy? I hope it's nothing serious. I really do. I don't wish any ill on the guy. I don't think any of us do. But man, it's just, I honestly, when
it's frustrating,
I can tell you what I and every other Net fan said when we heard he was out for personal reasons and didn't tell anybody what was going on. We all said, here we go.
Here we go. Yeah.
It's Kyrie.
It's the Kyrie show. Again.
Yeah. But look, now they brought in Harden, and again, I don't think it was. I don't think the message was, flake out if you need to, Kyrie. We got your. We found your replacement.
Sure.
I call it the big 2.5 because you just don't know what you're going to get with Kyrie. I mean, Kyrie.
You know what you're going to get if he plays.
Sometimes, but he wasn't necessarily a benefit to the talent around him in Boston.
No, you could look back at really Cleveland before LeBron came back. He was not affected. They were a better team without him. You could say
he had a great run. He had a great run the year Cleveland won the championship when LeBron came back.
You could certainly say
but he knew his place. But he knew his place, and he knew his number 2.
Right. That's what I'm saying. He didn't have to carry anything. And you would think that would be the situation with the Nets. Right. But Boston was better without him. And last season when he was hurt, this Nets team full of nobodies went to the playoffs. Granted, they didn't get anywhere, but they played better without him. So this
because of their depth. And they didn't lose a lot in this. I think the Nets and the Rockets, I think all the teams did okay.
Everybody, even the Pacers did okay with them. Yeah. Karis LeVert goes to the Pacers.
Yeah. So. LeVert is obviously going to hurt them, but
Oladipo, I don't know why the Pacers were willing to get rid of him. I just don't. Again, it might just have been a chemistry thing
or money thing, and they were getting LeVert back. So. They got a second round pick. I think they.
Look, they got the Cavs got what? Jared Allen, who was
he was a big part of the team last year.
Yeah, and he's a serviceable center, and they got Taurean Prince, who I think averages 8 or 9 points a game. So, they got a few guys that can score. Look, it's without Dinwiddie and without LeVert, and without Allen, it's going to be a little bit tougher. But you're not improving your defense with James Harden, but you're putting a lot more points on the scoreboard.
Right. And the West is always going to be there. There's more nights off in quotes in the East where, the Nets are playing Cleveland maybe not as much this year, but than there is in the West, because even the West, when you get down to the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th seed, you got to go into San Antonio and play a Spurs team that's capable. It's a lot more wear and tear. And now he's had people on his team before, but he's got a little bit more balanced help.
Yeah.
I mean, James Harden likes to bring the ball up. James Harden I wouldn't necessarily call him exclusively a shooting guard. I mean, he's kind of a point guard.
But I wonder how much of that was because he didn't trust anybody else to do it.
But he had arguably 2 of the best point guards in the history of the NBA playing next to him, and he still was bringing the ball up the court. I mean, it'll be interesting.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting. I still think I want the ball in Durant's hand at the end of the game. What I think where this helps the Nets is that you can't collapse on Durant because now you got Harden sitting out there all alone.
Yep.
And Harden hasn't had that ever because even with, Russell Westbrook or who's the other? Chris Paul. Those guys don't have the shooting respect that Durant does. So they could still collapse on Harden. So I think this is a good move. Obviously, the Nets are a lot better, and I think that puts them squarely as the favorites in the East.
We're going to see if Harden can perform in the playoffs, though.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
He doesn't have much of a history of good numbers.
And I don't automatically write in the Lakers. I think the Clippers have something to prove this year, and I think it's going to be I think the Clippers and the Lakers are going to battle it out a little bit more so than people expect in the West.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, look, I think it's a good deal for the Nets. You gave up some young talent, but you kept the big three, and at least two of them will be on the court. And Harden obviously has to get in shape.
Yeah, the fact that you're right though. The fact that Dinwiddie's out and then LeVert and Allen are out
LeVert being gone, that's going to hurt their depth.
It's going to hurt their depth. Absolutely.
And I'll tell you, the Bucks after a kind of rough start are looking right back to where the Bucks are, and the Sixers look good.
Yeah, Sixers are looking strong.
Still look good, but I said it, and the Bucks, they bounced back. They're in third right now. I mean, not that we're 3 weeks into the season.
The Raptors are 2-8.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, either KD or Harden can carry you for a game.
Yeah.
And the Nets were struggling when Kyrie and KD were both out.
Well, the Nets need to get healthy. They need to get healthy, and they got to stop.
Yeah, that's going to be amplified now.
Game 3, and already there's load management. Come on.
Right.
Come on.
So one of those two is pretty much going to have to be on the floor at all times.
And that's one thing. Harden plays every game. He very rarely. Yep. I mean, I don't think I ever remember Harden being out for load management.
Right.
No, he shows up and he plays.
Yeah.
So
we'll see how it all shakes out.
The Knicks, I don't know if they're maybe just a little bit of a rough patch. They're going to have growing pains.
4 in a row. I mean,
but they're so young. Up
through last night, the game with last night's game, Barrett was he was 0 for 5 from behind the arc, and over the last 3 games he was 2 for 21, and
if Knicks fans are thinking Barrett's going to be the man,
but he was playing better before that. This last 3 games, So what? Well, it's a long season. Well, it's not as long as normal, but
sometimes the stats are a little misleading.
Yeah.
The Knicks are obviously the Knicks have to hold people under 105 points a game to win.
Yeah.
When the difference is really that 10-point swing of when they can really clamp down on the defensive side, and Randall's putting his numbers in. My concern with the Knicks in general is that he's going with a 6, 7, 8-man rotation right now, and these guys are putting in a lot of minutes.
Yeah.
But Julius Randle has had 1 mediocre game, and the rest of these games, I mean, he's looking really good. Barrett had 20 points tonight. You can tell when the Knicks are having a good game when they're dominating on rebounds and they have a ton of assists. Yeah. When the ball is moving, that's when the Knicks, and that really comes down to Peyton. Yeah. Peyton is Austin Rivers being back, I think they're sort of playing 2 point guards at the same time right now because of the injuries that they've had. But Toppin, I guess, played for a minute tonight, so he's back
on his way back. Yeah.
Yeah. The guy, I'm less concerned with Barrett. I think Barrett's a good second, third wheel and a good team. The guy who's disappointing to me is Kevin Knox. And Mitchell Robinson hasn't really had this year so far that he's had last year. I mean, so we'll see. Again, it's what we talked about before the season started. They just don't have the right mix of players. They looked up until this current losing streak. They looked like a team, even with Toppin out. They looked like a team that was playing for each other, and all of a sudden they just started. They played teams that, I mean, the Nets are a better team than them. They only lost by 7. It was it was a good game. I don't,
Sure.
They lost to the Nuggets. The Nuggets, much better team than the Knicks.
Yeah.
They beat a couple teams that they lost to the Thunder, which was kind of predictable after the winning streak that they had. The only team that they really got blown out by, I guess they kind of got blown out by Charlotte too.
Yeah,
that was a game where they just didn't play.
Right.
They
weren't even.
We'll see. I mean, what are they? 5-7 now? The Knicks
5-7. Yeah. So.
If you're around 500, you're happy if you're a Knicks fan.
Oh, you're ecstatic. You're ecstatic.
Well, like I said, they you know what I mean. This time last week we were talking about the fact that they won 4 games at that point, right? And they've only won 1 since this time last week. So whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But again, last year it took them 22 games to win 4 games. They won 4 games in 7
games. Is the NBA playing a full 82 game season?
No.
No, what are they playing?
60, 61, 62, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, if the Knicks,
if they end up within 6 games of 500,
I was going to say, if
they're happy, right? If they're 5 or 6 games under,
I don't think they'll get that close, but I think the Knicks will win about 25 games.
Okay. If they're close to 500,
maybe if
I
they're
suppose
10 games under.
Yeah, so I think they'll be about 10 games under.
Still an improvement over the last several years. So
incredible.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. All right. Couple other mentions really quick. Not that we'll get into it, but NHL season starts. Rangers start tomorrow. So we'll have minimal talk, but we'll have some hockey chatter, if you will, and nothing really new.
Let's go Islanders.
There you go.
This is the only time I go out to the island to root for a team.
There you go.
I hate them.
There you go.
I hate the Islanders.
So
I think the Avalanche are going to be all right this year.
Yeah. It should be an interesting year.
Actually, I think they're playing tonight, right?
Are they?
Some teams started today. Some teams are starting
5
tomorrow.
games tonight. I think the Avalanche are playing. They were all like rivalry. Like it was like Flyers, Penguins, or they're all like heavy duty rivalry games.
Well, the Rangers are playing. The first 2 games are at home against the Islanders, and tomorrow night and Saturday night. So,
the Avalanche play St. Louis in about they just started.
There you go. So should be interesting. So we'll
the Rangers have to be better, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, but between Shesterkin in goal and everybody else, and they got the first overall draft pick is he's playing.
There you go.
Alexis Lafreniere.
Man, when the games get going, we're going to really be in trouble.
I'm telling you.
We're going to be here for 4 hours.
Well, football will be done by then, so
sure.
It'll just be baseball and
we're still going to find a way to talk about.
We'll have 37 top 5 movies and or whatever, top 5 cocktails to drink while watching the NHL.
Podcast after the Super Bowl, we'll only do an hour and a half of football.
we'll cut it down a bit.
Yes,
trim it back.
Speaking of hockey and giving a little bit of a plug to my local team here, Pierre Lacroix, who was the guy who really formed the Avalanche Stanley Cup championships, died in December, which I didn't realize until a couple weeks ago. But yeah, he's the guy who brought Patrick Waugh here and Joe Sakic, Ray Bourque, Rob Blake. I mean, those, it's not on your guys' radar, but those Avalanche teams, man, some of those battles they had with the Red Wings were just
that was a great team.
They were great. They were absolutely great.
Try being a Devils fan in Denver when they played them in the Stanley Cup final.
Listen,
that wasn't easy.
I'm sure it wasn't.
Well, all right. So listen, that's another connection. We have two Devils fans.
There you go.
The connection we have is that the New Jersey Devils were the Colorado Rockies.
Yes, they were
of the NHL.
And they came in and
who is the starting goaltender for the Rockies in the first and the I think this is true.
Yes, it's true. Glenn Chico Risch.
There you go. Didn't we meet him once, Sean?
We met him down we were kids down in Comcast.
I feel like I remember him being like 5'4" and looking like he should be selling hot dogs out of a JJ's on.
That's what he was doing there. He was selling the hot dogs. We just met him there,
and he pretended to be the keeper. Yeah.
The keeper, yeah. Glenn Chico Resch,
the keeper.
All right, so we'll have more hockey next week.
We'll have more hockey next week. There you go.
God, I got to learn about hockey. Jesus Christ.
Is that the one they play on the ice?
That's the one they play on the ice, unless it's on the street. Unless it's not.
Just wait till mid-February when we have the top 10 Zamboni drivers of all time.
Actually, we're going to have a Zamboni driver on the show.
That'll probably be easier than getting anybody else. Yeah,
I know one, so we'll get him on. But
do you really know a Zamboni?
I know a Zamboni driver for the Islanders. Yes, I do.
Wow.
Actually, the former Zamboni driver for the head Zamboni driver for the Devils, and now the head Zamboni driver for the Islanders. Quick story: I went to an Islanders game in Brooklyn, and I knew he was working that day, and I went with my cousin, and my cousin didn't know that I knew the guy or whatever, and I said to him, I says, "I'll bet you the next beer that I can get the Zamboni." It was towards the end of the first period. I says, "I'll bet you the next beer that I can get the Zamboni driver to wave to me." And he said, "You got it." And I was texting this guy Al. So I texted him. I says, he came around. And he asked me where I was sitting. I told him, and I stood up and I just gave one wave, and he stopped the Zamboni in the middle of the ice and stood up and started waving to me.
That's impressive. However, what I really want to see is you driving the Zamboni.
Oh yeah, well, I'll have to do that. I'll have to definitely work on that.
I'm sure there's union rules involved with that.
Probably.
Yeah, the rules are meant to be broken.
Well, couple of things we'll wrap up with. Just NCAA. Congratulations to Nick Saban winning his 7th national championship.
Damn, Alabama.
He won the first one with LSU, and then in 03, and then 09, 11, 12, 15, 17, and this year he won with Alabama. Amazing. Past Bear Bryant. He's now the winningest national championship head coach.
I mean, between Bear Bryant and Nick Saban, I mean, is it? We have to think of Alabama football as maybe the most dominant sports franchise of all time. I know they're not a professional franchise, but
sports franchise, yeah.
Has there ever been? Alabama football is just incredible.
Yeah, insanely incredible. Yeah, absolutely.
And easy to hate.
This is true. Well, congrats to Nick Saban. Good job with that. And then on a somber note, as Pete mentioned before, Tommy Lasorda passed away. Was he 93?
Something like that, yeah.
93, yeah.
He had a good run.
Yeah. And hey, you know what?
Mr. Dodger.
Mike Piazza, he posted a couple things for him. He was his Tommy Lasorda was his brother's godfather, his father's best friend. And if it wasn't for Tommy Lasorda, he would have never been drafted, and here he is in the Hall of Fame.
He was his brother's best friend's godfather's mother's Zamboni driver.
Second roommate, right? Zamboni driver, right? But I was in San Francisco once in staying in a hotel and eating breakfast in the restaurant downstairs. At the table right next to me, sitting a foot away from me, was Tommy Lasorda. And I said hello to him, and he said hello to me back, and shook hands. Great to meet you. That was not the extent of it, but it was cool to meet him like that. So
yeah,
that was a while ago, but in the '80s. But in any event, yeah, sorry. Condolences to the family. What a great man he was. So
I always remember one moment of him managing. I think it was a playoff series or something. I forget who it was against, but he was trying to figure out, they were doing double switches, and he was making a bunch of moves. And the umpire kind of walks over to the dugout, and he's like, "You got to send up a batter,
Yeah.
And Tommy's got like a paper and pencil. He looks up at the umpire and he's like, "I'm trying to figure it out right now," And I was like, God, that's got to be incredibly complicated if Tommy Lasorda is struggling with what is what is this move and then the next move and the next move.
Oh, in the National League, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but I always remember thinking,
I don't think anybody really understands it. I think they just do it, and you're like, okay.
No, it's gonna be
the umpire going, "Come on, we need a batter," and he's like, "I'm trying to figure it out."
Yeah, well, it's going to be an inevitable thing of the past soon enough. So,
bring in the DH
with the DH, and there you go.
That'll further.
So the National League is bringing in the DH?
Well, we don't know for sure, which I think is one of the like
how do you not know?
Rob Manfred hasn't made up his mind yet.
Manfred hasn't made up his mind. He's doing a terrible disservice here.
This is ridiculous. But I mean, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that this is the only year that's in question. By next year, 2022, it will be in across the board in both leagues. But
I don't have to hear this damn National League fan saying, "Oh, that's not real baseball."
Well, it wasn't before.
We're still going to say it.
Was it 1974 the American League adopted it? So I mean, before that, it was across the board in both leagues. There was no such thing as a designated hitter. So, but
I'll tell you what,
it was an experiment that unfortunately has taken on a life of its own.
This is true. And
I'm okay with it.
It you know what? Even right now for the Mets, looking at it like that, it actually does help them because the whole Pete Alonso, Dominic Smith issue right there. You got one of them's going to play first, and the other one's going to DH. Done. And there you go. Well, all right, that'll wrap up this show for today. I think we can all agree that it's about time.
It's almost Thursday out here.
I know. We want to thank everyone for watching, and for those of you listening to the audio podcast, thanks for listening. Don't forget to visit our website www.loggerroom.com. That's LAGERROOM.com. And remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our YouTube channel. All of them are at The Logger Room. Remember, we go live with a video podcast on both Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday at 7 o'clock. And for those of you that want to just listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and Stitcher. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of those feeds, and you will never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a great rest of the week. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the 4 amazing football games that hopefully we have in store for us this weekend. And, of course, the NHL season starting up and the basketball still playing. A lot of good sports on right now, folks. Enjoy them all, and we will talk to you soon. Take care, folks. Cheers.
Jimmy, wake up. It's over. It's my friend Jimmy. He probably fell asleep.
There you go.